Dragon Tamer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Second Awakening, Sword Seal Fist. Gazing at the ferocious blood vines before him, Liu Ming wanted to test his destructive power. He used his consciousness to direct the 7-meter-long vines to attack. A blood-red phantom lashed the road, leaving a gully nearly a meter deep, 2 feet wide, and several meters long. High-speed sawing. The blood vines spun like a chainsaw, instantly gouging a chasm over 3 meters deep. Seeing the blood vines' powerful attack, Liu Ming's face lit up with satisfaction. But the sound of sawing through the ground echoed far into the silent night sky. The train station in the distance seemed startled by the sudden noise, and a commotion accompanied by the barking of dogs could be heard. Getting carried away, Liu Ming muttered to himself as he heard the commotion. Just as he thought the noise of the attack had awakened the monster's dormant within, the handsome old man suddenly raised his wooden staff and pointed it into the distance. Countless green rays of light rained down from the sky above the train station, and in the slowly falling green light, the chaotic station returned to calm. The light of tranquility? Liu Ming asked. Yes, Guardian, this is the light of tranquility that helps creatures sleep, plants grow, and accelerates recovery from injuries. However, it cannot be used in conjunction with the all-growth ability, the handsome old man replied. Liu Ming was already quite satisfied with the heroic spirit's all-growth ability, but he was even more surprised to see that the light of tranquility could actually trick a half-asleep monster's powerful illusion. The all-growth ability and the plant-growing ability of Bobo Tool and Mimu's Greenwood Magic Seal appear similar, but they are actually very different. The former promotes growth in accordance with natural laws, without consuming the plant's potential and vitality during the process, resulting in the plants growing healthy and strong, as if they were naturally grown. The latter, on the other hand, is more like accelerating growth at any cost, often exhausting the plant's vitality and withering instantly after the frenzy. Gazing at the silent train station ticket office and waiting area in the distance, though there was no movement or sound, Liu Ming could still faintly sense a burning heat in the distant air. It said that, wherever the demon dog lay, the ground would melt into magma. This terrifying, searing heat might have been caused by it. After all, the evolved dogs patrolling under the demon dog were devoured by the blood vines. Liu Ming decided not to continue hunting the evolved dog. If the demon dog discovered the sudden disappearance of so many of his subordinates, something would surely happen, and his entire night's efforts would be wasted. So, he took Sumi and Jizerang to hunt other monsters farther away. 10 minutes later, the newly sprouted tiny blood vines were once again surrounded by the bloody corpses of monsters. Half an hour later, the green starlight in Kaimengwen's hand had become much less abundant. Kaimengwen, stop. Seeing the heroic spirit's expression drooping and evident exhaustion, Liu Ming hurriedly ordered him to stop. This handsome green-haired old man was the key figure tonight. If he was exhausted and unable to use his abilities, a few blood vines wouldn't be of much use tomorrow. Hearing this, Kaimengwen released a weaker version of the light of tranquility to accelerate the growth of the blood vines, accelerating their growth by about 1.5 times, far less than the threefold increase in growth of all things. After releasing the light of tranquility, he transformed into a beam of light and vanished into the air, recovering his strength in an unknown space. After resting for 2 hours, Kaimengwen reappeared, continuing to use his power to spawn the bloodthirsty sawtooth vines. Overnight, as the sky began to pale, the flower bed across from the train station had sprouted 5 7-meter-long bloodthirsty sawtooth vines and a juvenile blood vine. Like a creeping monster, the blood vines burrowed deeply into the soil, some even burrowing directly into the asphalt, leaving the smooth roadside dented. 5 blood vines twisted and danced in the air like giant pythons, their dense, dark red serrations adorning their sides sending a chill down one's spine. The piled up, fleshless bones of the monsters, piled beside the 5 blood vines, were buried in the earth by Liu Ming. He pulled a bowl-sized crystal bottle from his arms, one of the divine favors granted along with the Thunder Festival summoning talisman. Weakness disguise potion. This magical potion confuses the user into making their enemies appear incredibly weak and harmless. The effect is lost under sustained hostility and staring. After sprinkling some of the disguise potion on each blood vine root, Liu Ming instantly saw the blood vines transform into 5 fingers thick and 2 to 3 meters long, resembling ordinary vines like creepers. As he stared intently at the 5 vines, a dozen seconds later, they transformed into terrifying blood vines dancing in the air, resembling giant blood red pythons. "It's working very well," Liu Ming exclaimed with satisfaction, heading towards the other side of the street 100 meters away. Looking at the ankle-high juvenile war tree, Liu Ming shook his head, figuring it wouldn't attract the demon hound's attention and cause an attack. He put away the disguise potion and sat on Ji Zireng's back, leaving the train station. Upon returning to Building 3 in the morning light, everyone had already woken up and anxiously gathered around them, like ants on a hot pot. "What's going on?" Liu Ming asked, riding Sumi from the balcony into the room. "Boss, Jie Shengnan has been running a fever since you left, and it's lasted all night. We've used antipyretics and ice packs, but her fever still hasn't gone down." "Wow, Shengnan is almost burning out." Liu Ming just walked into the crowd and saw Jie Shengnan lying on the sofa when he heard Mao Fengji say in a crying voice, "Huh." Before he even got close to Jie Shengnan, Liu Ming could feel the heat coming towards him, like a human air conditioner turning on the hottest temperature in the summer. "She's fine. This is the second awakening," Liu Ming said with certainty, after watching for a while. "Boss, what is the second awakening?" everyone asked hurriedly. "I always forgot to tell you that Jie Shengnan is an awakener. Remember the fat man who can set fires? That's the fat wolf," Liu Ming asked. "Of course I remember. It was the boss who saved us from that scumbag's tyranny. He's an awakened with fire abilities, and Jie Shengnan is also an awakened, but his awakened abilities are usually less visible. This is her second awakening." The intense energy reaction within her body caused the energy to escape, creating high temperatures. Liu Ming spoke with a hint of surprise. He had originally thought that the power girl was just a power-focused awakened, but he hadn't expected her to be able to awaken a second time. Such potential is rare in later generations, 1 in 1,000. In the entire Wuling security zone, fewer than 1,000 people can achieve a second awakening. If he could awaken his power a second time, and then harness the power of the dragon veins, his current strength would probably be close to that of a C-rank power class. If he added the Frost Giant's power from the Frostful Sword, his might would rival that of a late-stage C-rank power class. Even a C-rank monster like the Corpse Witch with its horde of minions could be defeated with brute force. He would definitely reclaim that sword from the Corpse Witch's hands. The air around them grew increasingly hot, and Jie Shengnan's face flushed redder and redder, as if she were running a fever. A sudden wave of heat washed over them, then slowly cooled as the heat slowly subsided. Jie Shengnan's eyes twitched as they finally opened. The first thing she did upon waking was to struggle to her feet and throw herself at Liu Ming, half lying on the sofa, and giving him another bear hug. "Uncle, thank you for saving me. Wow. I thought I was dead when that giant lizard took me away, but you came to my rescue and left you seriously injured and with a broken arm. Wow. Wow." This usually strong woman suddenly burst into tears like a child. "It's okay. How did you know I saved you? Weren't you unconscious?" Liu Ming asked curiously. "I actually woke up a few times, but I had no strength left in my body. I couldn't even open my eyelids. But I heard your voice, Uncle," Jie Shengnan replied, blushing slightly. "Try your strength now." Liu Ming nodded, handing her a solid steel rod that someone had used as a weapon, lying beside the bed. With a snap, the newly awakened Jie Shengnan twisted a steel rod, the thickness of a baby's arm, into a twist, and then snapped it in two. The arm strength of a late-stage E-rank power class, Liu Ming judged with narrowed eyes. With a little training, this incredibly powerful woman might surpass Goring and Marjan, becoming the strongest fighter in the entire team besides himself. He took out the last of the 4 divine favors he had received from the previous sacrifice, and handed it over. "Use it," he commanded, facing Jie Shengnan's puzzled expression. Class, Sword Seal Fist Potential, 2nd tier SSS rank description, a white class. The Sword Seal Fist is a special fusion of the Sword Seal Master and the Fist Seal Master. This class combines the sharp attacks of the sword with the boxing style, superimposing them on both fists in the form of sword seals. The sword and fist seals possess both melee and ranged attack capabilities. Intense power grants the sword and fist seals greater destructive power and lethality, and the greater the power, the stronger the sword and fist seals. P.S. Fengsha has managed to manage his work, life, and writing schedule. From now on, I'll update at 12 PM daily. If there's an extra update, I'll update at 7 PM. It's already 50 chapters, and this is the time when a book can really start to show its worth. Without a doubt, Fengsha's debut has been a complete bust, judging by both recommendations, collections, and popularity. What makes Fengsha feel happy is that even though Fengsha, a reserved person, has stopped asking for votes and support recently, some friends still voluntarily vote for him every day. Some veterans vote 4 or 5 times a day, while others, 1 per day, are constantly there. It's heartwarming. For the sake of those who consistently vote for this flop, I'll keep writing. If it continues to flop like this, let's call it quits and finish at 600,000 words. Before I finish, I'll make a list of everyone who voted and thank them. I've always wanted to thank you all, but while there aren't many, there aren't too few either. I figured it would take a separate chapter to cover them all, so I haven't written anything yet. Chapter 52 Chief Chef, Crazy Hunting. This is too expensive. I don't want it. Jeshengnan gritted her teeth and refused. Superwoman, you are the most suitable person for this job. And you already owe me a life. Why would you care about owing me more? Haven't you heard that too much debt is better than nothing? Liu Ming said with a sneer on his face. Hearing this, Jeshengnan picked up the job transfer scroll with a complicated look in his eyes and asked with gritted teeth, before I use it, can I ask how old you are, uncle? 19. Liu Ming replied indifferently. Everyone around was shocked when he heard this. Boss, you are only 19. The muscular man Gu Yuan was shocked. Oh my god, you don't look like a 19-year-old with your big beard. Lin Mimui also complained. My son is 18. This was a 40-year-old working uncle who had obtained the power of the magic seal. This statement was met with unanimous contempt from everyone. Oldkin, do you know how to talk? Can your son compare to the boss? Liu Huchuan scolded him angrily. This middle-aged man was a magic seal warrior in their search team, and he had embarrassed him at the critical moment. Hahaha, uncle, the first time I saw you, I guessed you were no more than 20. Although your mind and appearance don't look 19, your skin doesn't betray you. Look at your lush collagen. Jeshengnan actually had the strength to stand up from the bed, put her hands on her hips and laughed triumphantly. Then the scroll in her hand transformed into a ball of light and enveloped her. A moment later, the light dissipated, and she emerged, fully refreshed and energetic. Marjun, what did you eat yesterday? Liu Ming suddenly turned to look at Marjun, who seemed to have aged considerably in the day, and asked. Still according to your original standards, boss. This standard was the instant noodles with eggs and ham that Liu Ming had set before. It's not easy to lead such a large group alone, right? Liu Ming asked with a smile. Oh, boss, don't say it. Life in this world is really not easy. Marjun smiled bitterly. After Liu Ming disappeared yesterday, he had to deal with not only the monster attacks, but also the food distribution and calming everyone's anxieties. He was practically overwhelmed by the sheer number of tasks. Okay, make breakfast. Today's egg noodles with ham and pork slices. Everyone should be well fed. We have long battle this morning. Han Piaraksu, find a few people who know how to cook. Everyone, feed me well later. After dinner, we'll be out hunting for sacrifices all morning. Don't be hungry. Liu Ming laid out the tasks one by one. After days of living on instant noodles, the room erupted in deafening cheers at the news of improved food. It even startled a wandering evolved cat downstairs. Over half an hour later, Marjun and his men brought tables from various rooms to form a terrace dining table. A group of smiling girls served pots of pork and egg noodles, making everyone's mouths water. At the top of the pan sat thin slices of meat, lightly browned after being seared in olive oil. Next to them were palm-sized slices of ham, emitting a distinct ham aroma, and golden, round fried eggs, shaped like little suns. Tender noodles lay in a milky broth, sprinkled with chopped green onions and tender white garlic. Even Liu Ming swallowed his saliva. He could be as ruthless as a rock and do whatever it took to survive, but he couldn't remain indifferent to the few comfort foods in the apocalypse. Let's eat. With Liu Ming's command, everyone grabbed their bowls and chopsticks and began digging in with cheers. In just over 10 minutes, they devoured all the noodles, the accompanying side dishes, and even the broth. Liu Ming burped with satisfaction and asked, "It tastes great. Even better than Marjan's egg noodles. Who made them?" Marjan burst into laughter at Liu Ming's words, surprised that he still remembered his original egg noodles. It was Kei Junran who made it. She fried the meat, ham, and eggs herself. She added the seasonings and taught us how to control the heat. We just helped out, Lin Mimoi quickly replied. Everyone's eyes turned to a beautiful, gentle, and quiet girl. "You made it?" Liu Ming also looked at her. This woman seemed to be one of the two people Lin Mimoi and Han Piaoxu had brought in with their own quotas. "Yes, I did, boss." The quiet and gentle girl suddenly felt nervous when she saw Liu Ming. "You will be our head chef from now on. I appointed you. From now on, you and your team will be responsible for preparing our meals. From now on, your food quota and benefits will be the same as those of the Magic Seal warriors. Marjan, make a note of this." Liu Ming was very satisfied with the woman's cooking skills. At least they were better than his own, honed through countless cooking sessions in his later life. Although she was not a combatant, the role she could play was not less than that of one or two ordinary combatants. Amidst the envious gazes, Kei Junran stood in disbelief, as if he hadn't expected his culinary skills to elicit a warm welcome from the cold, stern man before him. On a still slightly chilly morning, groups of figures suddenly appeared around the 7th group residential complex, each one far superior in strength to the average person. Those terrifying monsters, seemingly invincible to ordinary eyes, wielding the Grim Reaper's scythe, reaping life, were often crushed to the ground by these men's blades and clubs. "Captain, we've killed almost 50, right?" A young man with a middle-parted hairstyle asked the long-haired Liu Huchun. "Well, 47. Let's try to kill 100 before lunch break. We don't want the other search teams to outdo us, and we'll also get the boss to look at us differently." "Yes, Brother Chuan, you're right. We need to keep working hard." The portly middle-aged man who had previously been criticized for saying his son was 18 years old agreed. "Brother Chuan, the boss said we are moving to the train station this afternoon, but it's been overrun by a terrifying monster. Even if it's not to impress the boss, we have to work harder to gather sacrifices and get some goodies to save our lives." A man wearing black-framed glasses said with a worried look on his face. "Glass is right, everyone. Don't rest, get to work." Liu Huchuan's face darkened as he heard this, and he quickly called out to those still resting. This scene unfolded in various locations around the 7th group residential complex. A total of 8 teams were hunting in different areas. Liu Ming assigned Sumi and Garland Marjan to provide support, ensuring safety even if they encountered powerful monsters. He himself, along with Jie Shengnan and Ji Zhenrong, went hunting for powerful monsters in the surrounding area. On the rooftop of a tall building, Jie Shengnan, panting, faced off against a battered abyssal horned devil. Horned devil is a type of hell demon, one of the demon's most powerful units, surpassing Thorn Devil in strength and comparable to Chain Devil. But Jie Shengnan's second awakening and job evolution had transformed her into a true E-rank pinnacle sword seal fist, her strength even rivaling that of a D-rank strength class. Her sheer brute force rivaled that of the horned demon, a 2 to 3 meter tall figure sporting a massive horn and a muscular build. Boom. Jie Shengnan, gazing at the nearby horned demon, lost her composure and launched a powerful punch. Then, concentrating energy from her left hand, she swung her fist forward, sending a dagger-like sword seal into the air. This strike ignited the demon, unleashing a burst of sharp sword seal energy as it neared the demon, inflicting several new wounds on its already bloodied flesh. It was from this attack by Jie Shengnan that the poor horned demon was left battered and bruised. Finally, with a roar of unwillingness, Jie Shengnan's fist shattered its skull. This powerful woman, whose strength had caused Liu Ming's eyes to twitch, only slightly weakened. Looking at the scorching sun above his head, Liu Ming narrowed his eyes and said to Jie Shengnan, who was excited and reluctant to leave. Let's get ready to go back. PS. The second update for the book Friends and Confidants in Ye's Falling and Zichen Jinxiao, who have been silently supporting Feng Shui for their awards last week. Chapter 53. Divine Grace Armed. All attack. According to the statistics, Chu Gang's team has 131 common monsters and 6 F-class monsters. Han Piaoxu's team has 128 common monsters and 7 F-class monsters. Based on the value of the sacrifices, Han Piaoxu's team ranks first, Team 1. Chu Gang's team ranks second and Team 2. Yun Fanghua's team ranks third and Team 3. Gu Yuan's team ranks 4th and Team 4. Liu Huchuan's team ranks 5th and Team 5. Fang An's team ranks 6th and Team 6. Luo Ziping's team ranks 7th and Team 7. Lin Mimu's team ranks 8th and Team 8. Liu Ming stood before the pile of monster carcasses and addressed the members of the 8 search teams. This was part of the team structure Liu Ming had established at the beginning of their morning expedition. From now on, the 8 search teams would be divided into teams 1 to 8, based on their hunting success. Teams with higher numbers would receive slightly higher food rations and benefits than those with lower numbers. This was a rule Liu Ming had always wanted to establish. After all, with Gong Weeks in leading everyone, where everyone gets the same rewards regardless of how much they work, who would have the motivation to fight tooth and nail? Even if they followed orders, they would surely complain and be reluctant. Often, a vibrant team begins to decline and eventually fall apart under this seemingly fair, yet in reality deeply unfair, system. Sacrifices will be distributed to each team based on the number of kills each person has killed, he continued, glancing at Lin Mimui from the corner of his eye. He hadn't expected that, even if he had stuffed Miao Fengji, a woman with amazing combat awareness, into their search team, she would still finish 8th. The woman whose face was licked off by the Abyss Hound was also on Lin Mimui's team. That unfortunate woman's injuries had healed enough to fight normally, and she and another person with a breast injury had returned to the hunt. However, the woman's hideous ugly scar still remained, and she always wore a black scarf to cover her face. Perhaps this foolish woman, Lin Mimui, wasn't fit to be a team leader. He shook his head and began directing everyone to distribute the offerings and prepare for the sacrifice. Over an hour later, the mountain of offerings finally disappeared into the altar's light curtain. Over 200 divine favors remained, including 30 or 40 demon hunting devices alone, including 4 grade 2-star and 9 1-star demon hunting devices. There were also over 20 class advancement divine favors. Liu Ming's staff included Kigan practitioners, mages, summoners, elementalists, warriors, swordsmen, bladder masters, warriors, monks, ascetics, fighters, archers, and crossbowmen, among other basic evolutionary classes. Including the 5 previous classes and Jeshengnan, there were 31 evolutionary classes in total. Among them, Jeshengnan unexpectedly gained a first order E-level class advancement divine favor, the evolution blood, when she sacrificed the horn demon. Because Jeshengnan's energy level was already at first order F level when she transitioned, she advanced directly to the pinnacle of E level. Liu Ming traded his black armor cape for this unused evolution blood and gave it to Ma Jun. The black armor cape, which had accompanied him through countless bitter battles and was now somewhat frayed, was given to Miao Fengji by Jeshengnan. Ma Jun had now become an E-rank soldier soul warrior. Whenever he wielded his weapon, 2 soldier souls of F rank or higher accompanied him, assisting him in his attacks. Liu Ming also obtained new defensive equipment through sacrifice. Silver scale light armor, level, grade 2-star value, intermediate rare description, crafted primarily from silver essence. This armor is extremely lightweight, weighing 8.5 kilograms, yet boasts defense comparable to a 20 centimeters homogeneous steel plate. It also has the ability Scale Bolt Strike, which creates a silver scale shield. Scale Bolt Strike. The silver scale light armor unleashes a burst of scale-like energy arrows, indiscriminately attacking nearby enemies. Each scale bolt is as powerful as a powerful bow or crossbow within a 10-meter radius. Upon depletion of energy, it has a cooldown of 16 natural hours. Silver scale shield. When an attack approaches the light armor, an energy shield automatically deploys, capable of blocking attacks up to level 1E. Once all energy is depleted, it cools down to a 4-day recharge. This light armor's defensive power significantly surpasses the black armor cloak, and their abilities and effects are very similar, allowing the black armor cloak, a level lower, to be replaced. Among the over 200 divine favors, there are over 20 weapons. Marjan's lesser demon blood blade has been replaced with a single-edged straight blade with accelerated bleeding. Liu Ming also wielded the Jufeng sword to slash the 4 thorn whips he had brought back into 12 sections, removing the thorns from the ends and crafting them into 12 cold weapons resembling iron maces and maces, thus upgrading all of his men's crude weaponry. Team 6 Captain Fangen, the sword key demon seal, traded his bone-peeling dagger for a 3-foot-long sword that amplified both strength and agility. Team 7's Captain, Iron Demon Seal Aluo Ziping, nearly 1.9 meters tall, had transitioned to a shield guard class. Donning a suit of heavy red steel armor weighing over 100 kilograms, he was a towering indestructible iron tower. Each of the 40 plus combatants possessed at least 2 or 3 divinely blessed items, weapons, armor, or even gadgets. Everyone's strength had been significantly boosted by this sacrifice. Now, if they were to face the corpse witch and his undead minions again, their chances of victory were definitely over 90%. Liu Ming, observing his men's high spirits and fighting spirit, pondered the situation. Shortly after everyone received divine blessings, Kei Junren arrived with 2 girls and invited everyone upstairs for dinner. This time, they had rice and a hodgepodge. While it was simply a hodgepodge of meat and vegetables cooked in separate iron pots, the addition of a few pockets of hot pot base Kei Junren had salvaged from a household gave the dish the flavor of Sichuan and Chongqing hot pot, leaving everyone satisfied. After dinner, Liu Ming gathered everyone together. I'll give those who didn't obtain the magic seal last time another chance to comprehend it. I hope you'll seize it and not let me down. With that, he pressed 2 fingers together between his brows, and the magic seal diagram unfolded across the room like a scroll of light and a star map. You too should comprehend it as well, he said, looking at Miao Fengji and Jie Shengnan, who were still stunned. The 2 girlfriends quickly followed the others, already absorbed in the experience, and stared intently at the light diagram above their heads. The others who had already obtained the magic seal gathered around Liu Ming, listening to him explain the precautions for the afternoon's operation, as only 1 magic seal could be obtained, and each one was unique. This afternoon's operation is arguably our most important. If successful, everyone will surely live a life even better than in peacetime, even in this world, where ordinary people live in uncertainty. Failure, however, will not only result in many tragic deaths, but we will also pay a heavy price for nothing. So I urge you all to muster the courage to fight to the death. If not for yourselves, then for your loved ones and families. If this operation succeeds, I will personally lead the team to rescue the families of all those living in Wuling City. This is my promise. Liu Ming's few words lifted everyone's spirits, especially the magic seal warriors who lived in Wuling. Just as he finished explaining the precautions for the operation, the time limit for comprehending the magic seal diagram expired. After the light scroll shrank and shot back to Liu Ming's brow, the group of people comprehending suddenly erupted in excited cheers. The first to cheer was Chu Gang's wife, the woman who had become a Kigan practitioner. "Ah Gang, I did it. Did you see that? I did it." The woman suddenly shot out several beams of light, instantly piercing the wall with incredible speed. Under everyone's gaze, she smirked and retracted her ability. "Medium magic seal scorching light, fine." Liu Ming nodded slightly. Out of the 30 or 40 ordinary people who hadn't previously acquired a magic seal, over 10 had actually gained one during their second enlightenment. While most of them were low-level magic seals, it expanded the size of the future combat force by a third. Liu Ming was even more astonished when his 2 best friends, Jie Shengnan and Miao Fengji, awoke from their enlightenment. Their bodies emanated energy fluctuations comparable to what he had experienced when he first acquired the monarch-level Azure Flame Magic Seal, Sword Spirit Magic Seal, Barbarian Phase Magic Seal. All those who have recently acquired Magic Seal abilities and ordinary people, stay behind. Everyone else, follow me. After a slight shock, Liu Ming gave a command and led the fully armed group out of the room. Chapter 54 Fire Team arrives at the station. "Marjan, are you nervous?" Liu Ming asked Marjan, who was concentrating on driving, from the passenger seat of a water tanker fire truck. Boss, what do you think? How can I not be nervous? With your strength, you made it sound so dangerous, and we are not nervous as hell, Marjan replied with a wry smile. Don't be too nervous. That monster's ability to manipulate flames and molten lava is just too abnormal. With these fire trucks from the fire department, we should be able to deal with it. Before the departure, when Liu Ming had explained to everyone that they would be encountering a monster with terrifying fire powers, someone suggested using water cannons and fire extinguishers. Liu Ming thought the idea was a good one, and after setting off, he headed straight for the district fire station not far from Group 7. He had several of his experienced drivers, who had only driven small cars and never large trucks, rickety out a few fire trucks, and everyone got in and headed straight for the train station. The fire trucks were limited in space, so those who couldn't fit in were placed in several cars that had been parked in their company parking lot and followed behind them. Your company's benefits are pretty good, aren't they? They all drive luxury cars, Liu Ming suddenly said, smiling at Han Piaoxu and Lin Mimi, who were sitting in the back seat of the fire truck. The 5 or 6 private cars following behind them, aside from a cheaper Jeep Compass and a Ford Taurus, cost less than 4 or 500,000 yuan. The most expensive of them all belonged to Leokin, a middle-aged, portly member of Liu Huchuan's squad. He drove a top-of-the-line Audi A8, leading the other 4 members of Liu Huchuan's squad in style. That's them. Piaoxu and I don't have any money, Lin Mimui said, rolling her eyes. Aren't people in real estate all rich? Liu Ming, with nothing else to do, struck up a conversation with his men. Only the bosses, shareholders, and senior executives have money. That fattykin was our CFO and a board member before the apocalypse, worth hundreds of millions. That Lin Ming driving the Range Rover is the son of a board member. His father was one of the 3 ordinary survivors he brought back with him using his quota. And look at that, Team 3 Captain Yun Fanghua, driving the purple Porsche Cayenne. Tell you a secret, she used to be our CEO's secret lover. Before she was 30, she was our manager. A strong woman with great skills. But not long after the apocalypse, she was devoured by his voluptuous secretary, who had transformed into a monster. Lin Mimui also got excited and revealed all the details about the people driving behind her to Liu Ming. According to Han Piaoxu, she was the company's gossip queen before the apocalypse, knowing the backgrounds of most of the thousands of people in every office in the building. I didn't expect that among the 70 or 80 people I brought back, 2 of them were board members. What a stroke of luck. Liu Ming found the words amusing. Of course, we are a publicly listed company. Once world peace is restored, you can ask them for 18 million each. Don't forget me and Piaoxu when you become a wealthy man. Lin Mimui's eyes, each a crescent-shaped crescent, beamed with anticipation as she addressed Liu Ming. But Liu Ming chuckled and replied, I think you're still half asleep. Maybe your brain's gone haywire. World peace. Even the gods, demons, and devils of the altar have appeared, and you're still expecting world peace. You live in the M78 Nebula? Marjan, driving, heard the word M78 Nebula and his foot trembled. He mistook the accelerator for the brake, and the fire truck suddenly rushed out. Fortunately, he braked in time. A shout came from behind. Boss, Jun, are you okay? It's okay, it's okay. Marjan shouted. Liu Ming looked at Marjan with a half smile. He must have been remembering how he teased him about being from the M78 Nebula when we first met. Marjan smiled sheepishly and continued to focus on driving. Lin Mimi, in the back seat, stared at the back of Liu Ming's head, rolling her eyes in anger. She thought to herself, Liu Ming, what a jerk. He changes so quickly. He was just enjoying my gossip, and now he's lashing out with venom. He's just asking you to get rich, but you don't forget me and Piaoxu, and you're already throwing a tantrum. What a 19-year-old, old monster, what a stingy man. But as she reflected on Liu Ming's words, she suddenly felt a surge of panic, a chill in her heart as she asked, Liu Ming, are you serious? It's going to be like this, with monsters everywhere. Will the world ever return to the way it was before? What about the government? What about the United Nations? Silly woman, stop daydreaming. unless you can summon someone from your home nebula, M78, to save the Earth. Prepare to wake up every day and see monsters smiling at you from the window. Liu Ming scoffed, then ignored her, closing his eyes to prepare for the fierce battle ahead. Ma Jun's feet trembled again at his words, but this time he managed to keep the car steady. He thought silently, why does Liu Ming always keep bringing up the M78 nebula joke in a new and different way? Can't he just change it up? With the incredibly powerful Sumi and Zilong, who had been following the convoy all the way, providing protection, the monsters that appeared along the way were reduced to roadside corpses before they could even attack the convoy. Stop. At a turn from the train station square, Liu Ming, who had been closing his eyes, suddenly opened them and spoke. Ma Jun immediately slammed on the brakes and stopped the car. The cars behind, seeing the lead car stop, also stopped. Everyone except the fire truck driver, get out, Liu Ming commanded, jumping out first. Ma Jun, you get out too. Liu Ming let the fat man Liu Qin, who was driving the Audi, take over Ma Jun's driving duties, and asked him to get out as well. After all, it would be a waste of the main combat power of an E-class to drive a fire truck and spray water. Everyone, follow me on foot as we approach the train station. The fire truck drivers will slowly follow behind. Remember this, all drivers. When that flame-controlling monster appears, wait for my command. I'll raise my sword and fire all the high-pressure water cannons. I've already demonstrated how to use the water cannons in the fire department. He felt a little regretful. He'd searched the entire fire department, but couldn't find a single person alive. It would have been much easier to just have a few firefighters manning the fire trucks and water cannons. Zilong, come out. At Liu Ming's call, Zilong emerged from the ground to everyone's astonishment. This is my dragon pet, just like Sumi. I'm afraid you might misunderstand and hurt one of our own, so I'm saying hello. Zilong, hello. Zilong's voice erupted with a stale sandy breath that dusted everyone's faces. Having traveled all the way without encountering any threats, everyone, who had let their guard down, suddenly looked at the hideous Zilong with renewed vigor. If you don't want to die, be on high alert and follow me. Liu Ming charged out first, Sumi and Zilong flanking him. As soon as he reached the street opposite the train station, he discovered that a group of evolved dogs had already spotted the camouflaged bloodthirsty sawtooth vines. The evolved dogs surrounded the 5 python-like vines, attacking them periodically, scratching them with their claws. But each time a wounded vine's teeth struck the evolved dog, it would be swiftly healed by consuming its flesh and blood. Several evolved dog corpses lay around the 5 blood vines. Roar. A high, furious roar suddenly rang out from the distant ticket hall of the train station. That was close. We're lucky we made it in time. Liu Ming was startled by the roar. This wasn't just the roar of an evolved dog, it was the demonic dog, enraged by the steady death of its minions. Had he and his men arrived a moment later, the 5 blood vines would have been reduced to ash in its molten lava. P.S. Here is the second update. This chapter is an extra update thanks to the donations from Xian Shinshin 123 and Nan Zishang, the first disciple of this book, last week. I also thank Shu Huangahei and Yao Jidang Nianjing Sheng for their donations over the past 2 days. I will add an extra update on Saturday. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Lava Dog, Bloody Square. Upon seeing Liu Ming and his group, the evolved dogs, each larger than a lion, abandoned their attempts to siege the ferocious blood vines and charged at them with a frenzy of energy. Liu Ming, however, remained motionless, staring intently at the scorching air in the distance. Behind him, the men, weapons brandished, charged out from his side, engaging the horde of evolved dogs in fierce combat. Ma Jun swung his straight sword, and 2 shadowy, heavily armored, sword-wielding soldier spirits materialized from the void behind him. All 3 blades struck a single evolved dog, a man's height, slender and incredibly agile. With a thud, 3 simultaneous strikes slashed through the creature, instantly killing it. Jie Shengnan zeroed in on one of the dog's attacks. With her bare hands, she struck the muscular black-skinned creature with the brilliance of a legendary martial arts master, punching and slapping it like a legendary martial arts master, tearing its flesh and skin apart. Finally, a palm strike landed on its skull, and it collapsed to the ground with a mournful wail. The 2 strongest evolved dogs in the pack fell in a pool of blood after a brief clash. The crowd's morale soared, and they were about to devour the 20-odd evolved dogs. But before they could rejoice, accompanied by a deafening roar, a vast dark mass suddenly appeared in the train station square, surging towards the crowd like a tide. Within that mass of shadows lay hundreds, perhaps thousands, of evolved dogs, barking and roaring frantically. Everyone's faces paled at the sight. Even Marjan, a former spearhead soldier, felt a layer of sweat break out on his forehead from nervousness. Liu Ming, observing the incoming pack, a serious expression grew. Demon Seal battle formation. Just as the pack was about to charge into the crowd, the battle formation diagram flew out from between Liu Ming's brows. The diagram swirled above the crowd, swelling to nearly 100 square meters before suddenly descending. Multicolored beams of light shot out from the diagram, enveloping the crowd. These beams intertwined, forming a light array covering hundreds of square meters. The power of everyone's magic seals intensified within the light array, instantly decimating the struggling small group of evolved dogs. Meanwhile, the pack slammed fiercely into the light array. Several magic seal warriors lost their balance and were instantly tackled to the ground by the enormous and weighty evolved dogs. The others, struggling to hold on against the onslaught of dogs, had no time to rescue them. Liu Ming dodged and rushed forward, slashing down the vicious dogs with a few swift blows, and rescuing the unfortunate victims. "Follow me," he roared, leading the group towards the location of the bloodthirsty sawtooth vines. Thousands of evolved dogs, most of them not yet F-rank, merely ordinary evolved dogs comparable to ferocious beasts, were facing such overwhelming numbers that defeat was inevitable. Their only option now was to use the 5 ferocious blood vines as a barrier for a last-ditch fight. As they retreated towards the blood vines, the magic dog's Liu Ming had been watching from the corner of his eye finally appeared. This beast, nearly 2 stories tall, was a massive ferocious creature. Its entire body was a fiery crimson, devoid of hair. Its torso was covered in patches of lava skin, like armor. The dark red lava skin enveloped the demonic dog like a suit of divine armor. Through the gaps between the patches, one could faintly see the fiery red blood beneath its skin, coursing through thick veins like magma. With every step it took, the ground beneath its massive claws melted like molten lava. Even its followers leaped over the ground, afraid to tread on it. It emerged slowly, like the king of this pack of evolved dogs, followed by a pack of far more powerful evolved dogs, like a royal guard. Liu Ming could tell at a glance that these beasts, taller than a man, were at least E-level or higher. Seeing the human who had murdered many of its own men running a short distance away, it roared in anger and abruptly moved. Everyone felt a flash before their eyes, and a crimson shadow suddenly appeared before them from nearly 100 meters away, its massive body bearing down like a building. Amidst the utter horror on everyone's faces, Liu Ming growled, "Zhenirang." In the critical moment, a dark yellow dragon salamander burst forth from the ground and slammed into the molten beast like fiery hound. The dragon salamander, caught off guard, firmly blocked the fiery hound's swift attack. But the evolved hound guards following the fiery hound also charged forward, swooping down like a series of dark shadows. 2 demonic seal warriors walking behind were instantly tackled to the ground by the massive shadows. Just as Liu Ming was about to rush to the rescue, the molten beast, entangled by Zhenirang, suddenly turned and unleashed a blazing breath like crimson molten lava, instantly incinerating the 2 struggling under its claws. Even several of its subordinate evolved hounds, unable to dodge, were singed by the flames. "Damn it. You're so cruel." Liu Ming cursed fiercely, and the others, with faces filled with sorrow, quickly retreated. He hadn't expected 2 of his men, only in their early 40s, to be instantly slaughtered after the initial battle. Seeing the man before him attacking him while also attacking, Zhenirang suddenly flew into a rage. Rock armor. Countless sand and dirt flew into the air, clinging to the dragon salamander like iron filings to a magnet. Zhenirang, the size of an SUV, instantly expanded several times, transforming into a giant rock and earth beast, only slightly smaller than a lava blazing dog. It turned its head and unleashed a tree-colored dragon breath. A stream of rapidly moving sand and rocks, accompanied by a stream of burning water and a high-pressure jet of water, lashed the pursuing dogs, sending them scattering in an instant. Seeing Zilirang's formidable power, Liu Ming quickly led his men into the circle of the bloodthirsty sawtooth vines. Don't rush out of the attack range of these 5 vines. They're one of us, too, Liu Ming shouted at the still shocked crowd. Hearing Liu Ming's explanation, the crowd, staring at the 5 terrifying, ferocious vines, instantly felt a sense of security. Bang! From afar, a heavy object slammed into the asphalt before them like a heavy artillery shell, creating a massive crater in the hard surface, and leaving deep cracks all around. That hurts. A simple, aggrieved voice echoed in Liu Ming's heart. Everyone looked closely and realized the black figure sent flying was none other than the previously formidable Zilirang. However, Zilirang appeared unharmed, scrambling to his feet and sprinting towards them. Watching the approaching pack of dogs, with the fiery dog at the forefront, ready to spit fire, Liu Ming finally raised his absolute blade high. Just as the fiery dog was about to launch its molten attack, 6 high-pressure water cannons unleashed a volley of water at the fiery, terrifying beast. Less than 50 meters away, only one of the 6 water cannons missed due to a lack of control, while the others landed fiercely on the blazing dog's scorching form. Like a smoldering coal fire, a thick white mist rose from the crimson monster's body. This was the boiling water vapor from the intense heat. The blazing breath the blazing dog had been about to unleash was forcibly swallowed by the cooling liquid from the high-pressure water cannon before it could even burst forth. Gazing at the thick white mist, Liu Ming lowered his sword. The water cannons from the 6 fire trucks behind him suddenly stopped. Boom. Under the high-temperature steam, a massive crimson claw fiercely split the thick fog and stepped out, its footsteps landing heavily on the ground. Accompanied by the slow flow of dark red molten lava, the heavy sound of the footsteps struck everyone's heart like a hammer. They felt like they were standing on a lonely island in the middle of a volcanic lava lake, waves of fire bearing down on them. Facing the slowly approaching dark red molten lava that even the high-pressure water cannons couldn't extinguish, a heavy feeling of powerlessness rose within them. Today is the King Ming festival holiday, and Feng Shui is the only one on duty in the company's head office. He has been dealing with the abnormalities in the user's program system for a whole day. This update is a bit late. I hope everyone can forgive me. Feng Shui just found out today that you can leave comments after the chapters. There are more comments than in the comments section. There are also 3 poisonous people who started to call me poisonous after more than 10 chapters. But it is also thanks to these 3 poisonous people. If I hadn't seen their arrogant messages today, I would not have known what was so poisonous about this flop novel. After I have paid back all the extra updates I owe to everyone, I will resume updating once a day. I plan to spend some time to make some of the tacky parts more exciting, so that it will not only fail, but also be poisonous. Chapter 56, Shu Yuan's Focus, a bloodthirsty monster. Boss, what should we do? Everyone's teeth trembled as they watched the ferocious beast treading on the lava like a demon, and Liu Ming, one-armed and knife-wielding, standing in front. Leave this demon dog to me. Your mission is to entangle his evolved dogs and survive the aftermath of our battle. Liu Ming replied without turning his head. He called out to the spirited Sumi and the battered Zilirang, who had been beaten and cowered, and charged towards the blazing dog. The power of the magic seal light array was no match for the lava blazing dog, estimated to be at the peak of Class C. If no one stopped this terrifying evolved creature now, everyone except himself and his 2 dragon pets would be killed. The rock armor on the dragon salamander was already flaking off its body like clay, but it still followed Liu Ming and lunged forward to block the lava blazing dog. Sumi transformed into a phantom and instantly appeared beside the fiery dog. She clawed fiercely at the dog, but the terrifying attack, powerful enough to leave deep scratches on steel, failed to even scratch the dog's lava skin. Instead, its large claws bore traces of scorch marks from the intense heat of the dog's body. Sumi, you deal with the other evolved dogs. Leave it to Zilirang and me, Liu Ming shouted upon witnessing this. With one hand, Liu Ming slashed fiercely at the fiery dog's back. His indestructible power instantly activated, a black line appearing on the blade as it sliced through the dog's lava skin. As the blade penetrated the lava skin, piercing through the cracks in the skin, and piercing through the blood vessels, it suddenly burned red like steel at high temperatures. Even the handle was instantly filled with heat. Liu Ming's left hand, gripping the knife, creaked with a sudden, pungent smell of scorched flesh. He quickly pulled the knife free, his hand trembling slightly with pain. Kemenwen, the handsome old green-haired heroic spirit, suddenly appeared out of thin air. With a wave of his hand, a ball of tranquil light, with a faint healing effect, was released onto Liu Ming's injured palm. Although the burns remained, the intense pain was greatly reduced by the cooling effect of the tranquil light. By this time, Zhejiang was gradually overwhelmed by the high temperature and molten lava. His rock armor cracked like the earth cracked under the strong sunlight during the dry season. Water Elemental Domain. Water Elemental Center. Liu Ming shouted. Although he didn't know the main functions of these two abilities and talents, he knew they were water-related abilities. Upon hearing the command, Zhejiang quickly burrowed underground. The fiery dog, disgusted by this burrowing dragon salamander, stomped heavily on the ground, turning it into molten lava wherever he stepped. Even the dragon salamander hiding underground would probably not be able to withstand the heat. Sure enough, the dragon salamander soon emerged, its khaki color suddenly dark blue, its dark blue skin dotted with dark yellow scales. Around the salamander, blue water spheres hovered in the air like jellyfish. Most astonishingly, these spheres instantly evaporated into steam in the intense heat of the molten lava. The dragon salamander, having transformed from yellow to blue, opened its mouth and blew a stream of blue breath at the fiery dog. A stream of blue water, accompanied by dozens of blue water spheres, slammed into the fiery dog. Not to be outdone, the fiery dog unleashed a breath of flaming fire. The blue water and dark red flames collided violently. While the blue water column had a suppressive effect on flames, the sea-level fiery dog's energy level far surpassed that of the D-level salamander. Moments later, the flaming breath shattered the water column, transforming it into a cloud of steam and water droplets. The flaming breath, now less powerful than it had been before, charged towards the discolored Zhejiang with scorching energy. However, a force field suddenly erupted around Zhejiang, imperceptible to the naked eye, and filled with tiny pale blue water droplets, impenetrable and blocking the flames. The scorching power of the flames was completely neutralized by the power of water. Seeing its unstoppable flaming breath attack blocked, the lava fiery dog flew into a rage and pounced on the dragon salamander. Unwilling to be outdone, the dragon salamander clashed with the flaming dog. However, its power was significantly reduced compared to when it had previously used its rock armor's power to increase its strength and size, and it was knocked back again. This time, it landed not far from 5 blood vines. Just as the flaming dog was about to seize the opportunity and strike the dragon salamander's head with a fierce claw, 2 bloodthirsty sawtooth vines near it twisted and wrapped around the flaming dog like a giant python stalking its prey. The flaming dog was instantly entangled by the blood vines, but the molten burning substance within its body actually sizzled the thick vines. The burned blood vines swiftly ripped away from the fiery dog, then soared at it at high speed. The sharp teeth actually sucked the molten hot blood from beneath the molten skin, rapidly healing the dog's wounds. Kemenwen cast a serene light upon the blood vines, and the scorched vines and branches healed in a moment. The dragon salamander, after a pause, recovered its strength and continued to climb up vigorously, pouncing on the fiery dog. Meanwhile, the blood vines fiercely strangled the surrounding swarm of dogs. With the exception of E-rank evolved dogs, ordinary evolved dogs would almost certainly be killed instantly by the bloodthirsty sawtooth vines, their flesh rapidly sapped by the high-speed sawing, revealing only the bare bones. The blood vines, having devoured the flesh and blood of the evolved dogs, unexpectedly began to grow again, expanding from 7 meters to 8 meters. The young bloodthirsty sawtooth vines also grew rapidly alongside them, now reaching 3 or 4 meters in length, their attack power rivaling that of the F-rank evolved dogs. The scorching molten lava, which had nearly reached the crowd's feet, cooled into lumps under the high-pressure water cannons of 6 fire trucks. The people within the magic seal light array, aided by 3 blood vines, 2 long and 1 short, unleashed a terrifying burst of power. Evolved dogs perished almost every breath. Watching its men suffer heavy casualties, the lava-blazing dog's body suddenly heated up, its massive body seemingly engulfed in crimson flames. With a series of claws, it knocked Zhenrong, who had repeatedly stood in its way, to the ground. Then, in a flash, it appeared before a blood vine. A claw, shrouded in red flames, was about to tear through the blood vine. However, the 2 surrounding vines were surprisingly no slower than it. Just as its attack was about to rip through the blood vine, it tightly wrapped around its 2 limbs, preventing the full impact of the blow. The injured, weakened vine suddenly, like a raging python, soared through the surrounding evolved dogs with unparalleled ferocity and speed. Within moments, over a dozen evolved dogs had perished under its teeth, including 2 or 3 E-level evolved dogs alone. These evolved dogs were transformed into nutrients and fertilizer, completely healing under K-Mengwan's stimulating power. Nourished by the abundant nutrients, the bloodthirsty sawtooth vine became the first blood vine to exceed 8 meters in length above ground level. The now strongest blood vine, along with its 2 companions, joined the siege on the fiery dog. Zhenrong, who had just been knocked down, climbed back to his feet and joined the encirclement. Liu Ming also swung his absolute blade repeatedly, slashing at the fiery dogs, leaving deep scars. Seeing the fiery dog gradually losing ground, it suddenly roared frantically. The temperature soared again, and the demon dog's originally blood red eyes gradually deepened, finally turning a dark crimson, almost black. The red flames on its body also deepened, clusters of dark red flames erupting from various parts of its torso. The 2 vines that had entangled it instantly spasmed and loosened, and the dark red flames climbed up the trunk. The serrations of the vines suddenly rotated inward, sawing off the parts affected by the dark red flames. Upon landing, the 2 vines instantly burned to black ash. P.S. This update is for the 6th apprentice of this book, my cousin Hesp, and my elder brother Waldrew. Thank you to my new brother Hesp for his immediate support, and for his continued care and support. Because Fengsha was working overtime, his boss at home drove home yesterday for the holiday, so Fengsha had to take a ride on Diddy. The Diddy driver was a fake truck driver, supposedly a real truck driver. I originally wanted to write my second update in the car, but every time he did, he'd slam on the brakes from a long distance away. I guess it was an occupational hazard from truck driving. He was afraid the truck wouldn't stop if he didn't, and the sudden braking made me almost dizzy. So, I couldn't write in the car. This update is a bit late. Blame the fake driver, everyone. Chapter 57, Blazing Battlefield, Thunderstorm Flame Talisman. The demon dog, whose entire body had turned from fiery red to a dark crimson, seemed to have condensed itself like refined iron in the intense heat. Its bloated form became more sharply defined, its bulging muscles imbued with an explosive power. 2 bloodthirsty sawtooth vines, over 2 meters long, were instantly severed by the dark crimson flames. But from the broken ends, a blood-red sap suddenly gushed out, solidifying instantly and healing the wound. The broken vines grew back at a rate of several centimeters per second, and it looked like they would be fully grown in just a few minutes. This was the blood vine's bloodthirsty regeneration ability. It stored the flesh and blood it absorbed in its roots. When seriously injured, this stored flesh and blood would rapidly disintegrate into mysterious energy, rapidly breaking apart and regenerating. But no matter how fast it regenerated, it was no match for the blazing dog's attack. In an instant, the blazing dog reappeared before the 2 vines coiled behind it, its flaming claws slashing fiercely. If he were to be caught again by this claw, the blazing flames would most likely pour directly into his body through the wounds in the 2 blood vines. Stop it! Liu Ming shouted at Zhenrong, grabbing one of the 3 fire blast talismans he had received at the altar sacrifice and rushing forward. Zhenrong's entire body was enveloped in light blue water waves, and his 2 thick claws firmly grasped the fiery dog's tail. Liu Ming seized the opportunity to place a fire blast talisman on the fiery dog's massive head. Explode. With a low cry, the fire blast talisman exploded like a grenade on the fiery dog's skull. Although the fiery dog, a fire monster, was highly immune to flames, the immense force of the explosion ruptured its incredibly defensive dark red lava skin, creating a gash in its skull. Fiery red blood, as hot as magma, slowly flowed out of the gash, dripping onto the ground and melting a small crater. The fiery dog turned its ferocious head, its ferocious, cold, dark red eyes fixed on Liu Ming, the man who had injured it. However, Zhenrong held it captive, preventing it from escaping. It spun around, its maw, studded with incredibly sharp fangs, bit down fiercely on the dragon salamander, instantly piercing the protective layer of water ripples. However, the fangs only managed to pierce the surface before the dragon salamander's equally hard body blocked the bite. A volley of flaming breath shot out from its maw, aimed at Zhenrong. If the breath, laced with terrifying dark red flames, had struck the wound, it would have been gravely wounded. Dig underground. Liu Ming commanded hastily. Zhenrong immediately released the fiery dog's tail and dove into the ground. Zhenrong then shifted his fiery dog's attack to the group behind him. Before Liu Ming could block it, the fiery dog instantly appeared before the two magic seal warriors and, with a single blow, shattered the unfortunate creature's bones. Without even a chance to scream, the creature collapsed into the molten lava, dead. Just as the fiery dog charged at the second person, Zhenrong emerged again. Liu Ming's absolute blade also blazed with blue flames, and he and Zhenrong attacked the fiery dog from either side. The fiery dog was forced to turn and attack, blasting a burst of flames at the man and dragon, only to be blocked by Zhenrong's blue breath. But the dark red breath was even more powerful than before, and before Zhenrong could block it for long, nearly half of its remaining power continued to attack the man and dragon. A water elemental field emerged around the dragon salamander, temporarily blocking the remaining power of the flames, but the field flickered and began to break apart. Seeing this, Liu Ming swung his blue flames, but the remaining half of the flames were blocked by the blue flame's devouring power. Two flames, one red, one white, one large, one small, fought for power, one trying to devour the other trying to disperse the small white flame. But with the help of the dragon salamander's water abilities, Kang Yan finally devoured the flames, exploding tenfold in size. By the time it returned to Liu Ming's sword, it resembled a blazing torch several meters long. Meanwhile, the fiery dog charged in, knocking both the man and the dragon flying, then turned and attacked the ordinary magic seal warriors. By then, the corpses of hundreds of evolved dogs had piled up around them. As Liu Ming watched in shock and fury, 3 more of his men were slapped down by the fiery dogs, instantly reduced to charred corpses. "You bastard. Are you courting death?" He ignored his injuries and scrambled to his feet, charging towards the fiery dogs once again. The fiery dogs were already charging at Zhenrong, the powerful woman who was currently slaying the evolved dogs. No fewer than 5 level evolved dogs had been killed by her sword and fist attacks alone. The fiery dogs gazed at her with hatred and ferocity. The fiery dogs flashed behind Zhenrong and smacked her head with a fierce blow. Just as the beast's claw, as big as a human's, was about to strike the back of Zhenrong's head, a figure even taller than the fiery dog suddenly appeared, blocking the fatal blow for Zhenrong. It was a figure wearing a leather armored battle skirt and wielding a massive stone axe. His face and exposed skin were painted with colorful stripes, resembling a legendary barbarian. Power of the barbarian seal. But the fiery dog's attack was too terrifying. Although the barbarian king shielded her from behind, the flaming beast claw, formed from dark red flames, continued to strike the powerful woman. Miao Fengji, who was closest to Zhenrong, suddenly lunged forward, throwing her to the ground to avoid the blow. The flaming beast claw, as if automatically finding its target, unexpectedly turned and continued to strike the two women. Even a peak level blood vine could only injure itself to save itself. A single blow from this woman would surely have killed the two women instantly. Miao Fengji's long sword suddenly flew out, and an ethereal sword spirit, the size of an ordinary man, wielded a long sword and dove at the beast's claw like a moth to a flame. The long sword and its sword spirit were reduced to molten iron and nothingness by the flaming beast's claws. The power of the flaming beast's claws was exhausted and dissipated. The savage phase was also shattered by the flaming dog's claws, dissipating into the era's energy. The savage phase and its sword spirit were destroyed one after another, leaving the two girlfriends bleeding from their mouths. just as the flaming dog continued to pounce on them, and the two girlfriends were about to perish. Liu Ming and Sumi, wielding pale torches, finally arrived and deflected the flaming dog's fatal claws with a single strike. Wrong, hold it. After being repeatedly knocked back and knocked down, Wrong finally lost his temper. His earthly gravity field pressed down on the flaming dog, momentarily slowing the incredibly fast dog. He then lunged forward and slammed into it, engaging it in a frenzied struggle. Liu Ming also struck the flaming dog's head with his sword. A greedy consciousness emerged from the pale flames, and Kang Yan rushed to absorb the fiery power from the flaming dog's blood from the wounds inflicted. But the fiery dog's flames were far superior to the demon's low-level infernal fire. They instantly spread over the pale torches, igniting them into a half-pale, half-dark crimson hue. While the pale flame's energy couldn't burn him, the fiery dog's intense heat would incinerate him. Under the searing heat, Liu Ming had no choice but to release Ju Feng. Ju Feng plunged into the wound on the fiery dog's head like a small hillock, devouring the dark crimson flames. The wound on the fiery dog gradually widened under the force of the azure flame, and the dog roared in fury from the intense pain. Wrong, however, was clearly completely outmatched in the struggle, suffering repeated blows. Wounds covered his body, and dark crimson blood spurted profusely. Seeing Wrong nearing collapse, Liu Ming, despite the burns on his hands, grabbed the two remaining fire explosion talismans and lunged at him. Bang, bang. Two explosions echoed, leaving two more bloody gashes on the fiery dog's head. The fiery dog roared, releasing the battered dragon salamander it had pinned beneath it, and spun towards Liu Ming. Liu Ming had no time to dodge, and was about to be engulfed by the terrifying maw. The moment he was swallowed, Liu Ming yanked out the sharp blade from the fiery dog's head, and as the jaws closed, he thrust it between the dog's tongue and palate, forcing the incredibly sharp fangs to remain in the agonizing mouth. He quickly pulled two red paper talismans with blue patterns from his pockets, tossed them into the beast's mouth, and then stepped on its face to leverage the momentum and leap to the ground. Thunderstorm Flame Talisman. Level: Grade 2-star value. Low rare description. This is a mysterious talisman that, when thrown, explodes in a ferocious thunderstorm and blazing flames. Chapter 58. The Dust Settles. The Heart of Lava. Part 1. Liu Ming fell heavily to the concrete floor. The fiery dog, driven nearly mad by the excruciating pain in its mouth, suddenly lashed out with a fierce claw at him. The nearby blood vines quickly reached out to sweep away their master, but their whips were too far away, and it was too late. A sudden, resounding roar erupted from the fiery dog's mouth, or thunderstorm of lightning, and sparks erupted from the fiery dog's mouth like a thunderstorm, scattering across its massive head. Its claws, about to strike, were weakened by the violent chain of explosions. Blood vines. Wrong. Entangle it. Sumi, come with me. Focus on the eyes. Seeing the lava fiery dog twitching, as if from a high voltage shock, momentarily unable to attack, Liu Ming quickly led his dragon pet to attack. Three bloodthirsty sawtooth vines bound the fiery dog, still recovering from the explosion, like a Zangzi. Wrong. His fangs bared, bit fiercely into the fiery dog's thick neck, his mouth refusing to release even as the dog's scorching blood filled his mouth. Sumi, this time, didn't attack the fiery dog's lava skin, but instead plunged a claw into its left eye. Liu Ming arrived last, picking up the blood blade of demon fear, dropped by a fallen demon seal warrior, and stabbed the fiery dog's right eye, piercing the hilt. Despite this wound, which would have been fatal to any creature, the fiery dog surprisingly held on. Its dark red flames instantly faded to black, and its dark red lava skin also turned black. It violently broke free from the three blood vines, snapping them into as thick as buckets. The immense force sent Liu Ming and Sumi flying backwards. The fiery dog then turned and charged at Liu Ming, the one who had inflicted the most serious wounds on it. Liu Ming, exhausted and severely wounded, had no time to resist. At the critical moment, Wrong spun sideways, blocking the fiery dog's frenzied attack. A large mouthful of dark red blood gushed from the dragon salamander's mouth, and its breath instantly weakened. At Liu Ming's command, the other two blood vines, still assisting the others in attacking the evolved dog, also danced forward, attempting to entangle the suddenly rampaging fiery dog. Seeing that this attack still failed to harm Liu Ming, the fiery dog, knowing it had no chance, let out a wail, swatted down two magic seal warriors blocking its path, and turned to flee. Chase. Seeing that the fiery dog chose to flee after its outburst instead of continuing its attack, it knew it had only just regained its strength and was near death. He mounted Sumi and pursued the fiery dog. The fiery dog's straight line speed was even faster than Sumi's, but Sumi, with a few shadow attacks, dodged in front of the fiery dog, blocking its path. The heroic spirit Kaimengwen also hovered beside Liu Ming, watching the fiery dog's momentum dwindle. The fiery dog turned to see that the salamander, already severely injured by its own attack, had also blocked its retreat. There was no escape. Finally, it chose to charge at Liu Ming. Liu Ming was naturally no match for the massive fiery dog, standing 2 or 3 meters tall, but Kaimengwen and Jazirang could. Crystal spikes. Deadly thorns. Several thick, sharp spikes suddenly erupted from the ground, piercing the charging fiery dog. The fiery dog was thrown into a panic by the sudden onslaught of spikes. It dodged most of them, but 2 pierced its abdomen and chest, scorching the ground. Kaimengwen's deadly thorns twisted and clung to the spikes like a skeletal black snake, crawling along them and covering the fiery dog's entire body. Though the thorns were curled and charred by the intense heat, their tenacious vitality and resilience held the fiery dog tightly, preventing it from moving. Go, attack the head. Sumi, sitting beneath Liu Ming's seat, leaped high. Liu Ming seized the blood demon blade, still lodged in the fiery dog's right eye socket, and twisted it with his backhand. Amidst the fiery dog's frantic screams, fiery red blood, mixed with shredded flesh, gushed out of the wound like a running faucet. Despite the burns, Liu Ming gripped the hilt and yanked it free. The blood demon blade, a weapon far stronger than ordinary weapons, and considered a divine weapon before the apocalypse, was completely melted, leaving only a bare hilt and a small, broken blade. With this blow, the terrifying demon dog collapsed to the ground like a camel's back, its body half dangling from spikes several meters in the air. Watching the fiery dog's skin gradually fade, its crimson lava skin returning to its dying state, Liu Ming slowly approached. He could kill the demonic dog before him at any moment, the one that had wreaked havoc in the area surrounding the train station for over a year in later generations. But perhaps there were better solutions besides sacrificing it. Submit or die. Liu Ming roared at the demonic dog, its claws stained with the blood of several of his fallen men. Roar. A blast of flame, much less powerful, but still incredibly scorching, erupted directly into Liu Ming's face. A silver scale shield instantly opened, blocking the weakened fiery dog's crimson blast. Its power diminished. Dragon Taming. Liu Ming invoked the Dragon Tamer class ability, a skill he hadn't used since his class change. A vast and majestic consciousness suddenly emerged, surging with astonishing pressure upon the fiery dog, pinning it to the ground, its body unable to move, but its head still held high. Its hideous head, its brains blasted and bloodied, sank to the dust with a thud, its eyes fixed on Liu Ming with madness. Become my partner, and I will give you a new life, making you stronger. Contract with the creature before you. Accept or die. Liu Ming threatened, using his last remaining dragon pet contract. Roar. Another flaming breath burned Liu Ming's silver scale shield until the energy glow dimmed. The current creatures will refuses to contract with you. Then die. Liu Ming roared. Sumi. Upon hearing this, Sumi thrust a fierce claw straight into the fiery dog's brain through its eye socket. With a sudden jolt, the incredibly tenacious fiery dog slowly withered. When Liu Ming ordered Jizui to drag the fiery dog's lifeless body back, and he himself returned with Sumi, the evolved dogs, now without their leader, were still attacking the group. Liu Ming had already ripped Ju Feng from the fiery dog's mouth. Fortunately, Ju Feng's indestructible nature would have destroyed it in the burning and explosion. The azure flame torch still burned fiercely, and with every strike, an evolved dog fell to the ground. When Liu Ming and Sumi joined the fray, the remaining evolved dogs were utterly defeated, reduced to corpses except for a few who fled. When the situation became dire, we survived. We survived. As the last evolved dog fell, a hoarse roar suddenly erupted from the surviving crowd. We won. Old Faye, why are you dead? A magic seal warrior threw himself upon a charred corpse, wailing with grief. They're all dead. So many dead. Woo woo woo. Lin Mimi, the survivor, sobbed bitterly. Her search team, save for Mio Fengji, who had narrowly escaped death, and the disfigured girl, were all killed. My leg is broken. Fatikin's flappy face twisted in pain. His right foot had been torn through below the knee by a knee-rank evolved dog. Boss, come and take a look. Can glasses be saved? Liu Huchun, whose fingers were bitten off by the evolved beast, shouted to Liu Ming as he applied blood solution to the horrific wounds of a dying teammate. When victory arrived, there was not much joy on everyone's faces, only a bleak sadness. More than a dozen people died in the attacks of the lava dog and its evolved dogs, leaving only 28 of the 44 who arrived. A full 16 people died in this blazing battlefield, where the flames had not yet been completely extinguished. P.S. This update is for those readers who are short of books and for HESP. I have paid back the extra update I owe you all, and I will resume updating once a day in the future. I will strongly recommend it on the website tomorrow. Thank you editor for your kindness. I will add an extra update as a token of my gratitude. Chapter 59, The Dust Settles, The Heart of Lava, Part 2. Liu Ming hurried to Liu Huchun's side, only to find the bespectacled young man lying in his arms, barely breathing. His entire abdominal cavity had been ripped open by the beast's claws, revealing the wriggling internal organs within. The blood potion had staunched the bleeding, but the massive wound couldn't heal quickly enough. Kemenwen. Heal him. Kemenwen was the only one with healing abilities. He watched as the light of tranquility shone upon the wound, struggling to heal alongside the blood potion. The wound was too deep and long, and the current rate of treatment was a drop in the bucket. He then approached Fatikin, whose leg was broken, and used the blood potion to staunch the still wailing heaving. Almost every one of the 20 or so survivors was injured. Liu Huchun's, with only a broken finger, wasn't considered serious. Everyone, follow me. He led the group straight to the train station hall. Given the severity of their injuries, the blood potion's effectiveness seemed weak and insufficient. Only divine grace and healing could quickly stabilize and heal them. Enough had been lost in this battle. He didn't want to save a few sacrifices and risk the lives of his remaining 20 or so men. Inside the ticket hall, where the lava scorching hound had arrived, a grey, white, red, and blue altar appeared before everyone. It was 4 or 5 times larger than the 3 altars. Everything is for this. Liu Ming placed all his demon hunting instruments and the sacrifices he had brought with him on the altar, piling them up like a small mountain. Sacrifice. The 4-colored stone platform suddenly erupted with dazzling, 4-colored light, forming a pillar of immeasurable length. Although its top was just the roof of the ticket hall, to everyone's eyes, it seemed to pierce through it, piercing the sky, and piercing the stars. A female figure draped in a 4-colored robe appeared before them. Sacrificer. Liu Ming's heart trembled. This was beyond the realm of a sacrificial spirit, a being that only existed within altars of 4 or higher colors. It was a special life form with a complete personality and intelligence. Congratulations, mortal. Are you the first to offer sacrifice? A figure emerged from the light and shadows, smiling as Liu Ming, who had shouted sacrifice, said. Begin the sacrifice. I need the healing grace to heal everyone's injuries. This was Liu Ming's first time offering sacrifices at the 4-color altar. The highest level altar he had offered sacrifices to in later generations was a 3-color 7-star altar. The power that controlled the 4-color altar in Wuling City was simply beyond his reach. Legend has it that altars above the 4-color altar are presided over by altar priests, who can even gain divine grace unimaginable through sacrifices at lower level altars. Bathed in a sea of colorful light, everyone's injuries gradually healed. Will the severed limb be regenerated? The priestess asked, still smiling. Yes. As the white healing light fell on Liu Ming's severed arm, buds sprouted outward like young plants. Suddenly, a cloud of grey air emerged, and the buds formed by the healing energy were instantly shattered by the grey energy, like maggots in the tarsal bones. The crushed flesh granules were absorbed by the grey energy, and the tarsal maggots devoured the energy granules formed by the healing grace even more ferociously. Mortal, your severed arm is stained with a high concentration of lethal energy. The low-level healing grace, provided by the current offerings, cannot remove it. What level of sacrifice is required? A creature of rank 2 or higher. When everyone's injuries were fully healed, even the woman disfigured by the demon dog's licking, had regained her former appearance. She knelt on the ground and wept with joy. Only Liu Ming looked grim, wondering how much longer he would have to be a one-armed hero. After the healing grace, less than half of the offerings remained on the altar. Each grace condensed in the light before everyone. Mortal, congratulations on completing your first sacrifice and becoming the master of the altar. You will receive a 1% increase in grace and divine favor from the grace you extract. As the last light pattern extracted from the offering flew into the void, the priest's voice rang out again. The light barrier gradually dissipated, leaving only dozens of graces on the altar. We won. It was a tragic victory, but we won after all. Now is the time to reap the fruits of victory. Marjan, take everyone and bring in all the monster corpses outside. The spoils will be distributed after all the sacrifices are complete. Liu Ming shouted to the still dejected crowd. As everyone turned and left, Jizeli Rang returned with the massive corpse of the fiery hound. The fiery hound's power and size were so immense that it would likely fill all the demon hunting equipment, so Liu Ming had Jizeli Rang bring it back. After placing the fiery hound's body on the altar, a pillar of light shot up into the sky again. Master of the altar, are you offering this sacrifice? The priest sounded surprised. Why? Liu Ming, hearing the priest's surprise, asked curiously. This is a sacrifice with great potential. Perhaps you shouldn't sacrifice it directly, the priest said. What do you mean by not sacrificing it directly? Liu Ming's curiosity grew. Its heart possesses powerful magical power, enhanced by its bloodline. Perhaps you could sacrifice it separately in exchange for the corresponding divine favor, the priest explained. Could this be the legendary benefit only granted by offering sacrifices at altars of 4 or more colors? Liu Ming pondered. Then let's offer a separate sacrifice. After all, the loss of a single fiery dog heart shouldn't significantly impact the entire offering. The priest nodded and waved his scepter toward the fiery dog. Suddenly, countless rays of light shot out from the void of the barrier, connecting to the fiery dog's heart. The rays pulled the fiery dog's heart, as big as a wheel, through his chest and flew out, the fiery heart transforming into streaks of light and soaring into the void. It took 4 or 5 minutes for the fiery dog's heart to completely disintegrate. Then, amidst the interweaving red rays, a fist-sized drop of dark red liquid, emitting a scorching stream, appeared before Liu Ming. The lava heart, this magical substance imbued with the boundless power of molten flames, grants the wielder the power of fire and molten lava, as well as a surging heart as powerful as a volcano. It was a simple introduction, lacking in power or value, yet Liu Ming eagerly looked at the priestess and asked, will my body become half elemental, like this sacrifices in life? Unless absolutely necessary, Liu Ming had no desire to transform his human flesh and blood into the elemental form of monster. Of course, if it meant survival, he wouldn't hesitate to become a lich-like skeleton. Even the liches of later generations who occasionally recruited humans who had fallen completely into darkness as apprentices in the human world wouldn't be impressed by the spellcasting potential of the slowly beast tamer. And the situation clearly wasn't that dire right now. Of course not. You can think of it as a bloodline potion, one with the potential equivalent to a 5th level nirvana creature. Only you, the master of the altar, can offer special and powerful sacrifices separately to obtain this specific divine favor. The priestess replied affirmatively, explaining. Liu Ming took the lava heart and swallowed it in one gulp. He swore it was the most painful thing he had ever tasted in his 2 lives combined. The 100-degree hot liquid scalded his throat and oral mucosa. As the lava core entered his body, a surge of warm energy coursed through his limbs, even healing the burn in his throat. The greatest surge of energy continuously surged into his heart, gradually transforming it into something less like flesh and blood, and more like a beating, shimmering, fiery red jewel. Then, a surge of power surged from his heart throughout his body. Liu Ming could clearly feel his strength increasing. his bodily functions becoming ever more formidable, as if undergoing a comprehensive baptism. The remaining lava core then dispersed into tiny wisps of searing energy, which, like crimson starlight, penetrated deep into his cells, merging into one. Burp. Liu Ming burped, as if full, and a stream of crimson flames erupted with his breath. He then stared at his palm, where a ball of crimson molten lava unexpectedly gushed out. Despite the intense heat, he was oblivious to it, as if he were holding a ball of water, with no burning sensation at all. P.S. Thanks to my cousin Hishang Shishan for the tip and support. I'll update next Monday. Chapter 60, Gargoyle's Nest, Treehouse Square, Part 1. After experimenting, Liu Ming discovered that this lava heart granted him 3 improvements and 3 powerful abilities. First, his strength, agility, and reflexes increased. Second, his recovery was significantly improved. Finally, his physical strength and resistance to blows were enhanced. He tried it out, scratching his chest with his fingernails without breaking the skin, leaving only a shallow white mark. With his current strength, even solid wood would be punctured with a single scratch, let alone flesh and blood. The 3 abilities were a fiery breath, many times weaker than the fiery dogs, the ability to manipulate molten lava, and finally, lava skin, which instantly formed a layer of lava skin with a protective power comparable to that of high-strength alloy. After Liu Ming had tested all of his newfound abilities, the fiery dog's body, now missing its heart, vanished into streaks of light, leaving only 2 divine graces enveloped in a cocoon of light. Master of the altar, this sacrifice concludes. Call me if you need me. Goodbye. The priestess smiled faintly and transformed into a beam of light, returning to the altar. Liu Ming reached for the enormous left-hand form of the 2 divine favors. Name, Gargoyle Lair, Level, Grey 7 stars, Value, Top Rare. Description, this is a factory that produces the gargoyles, a low-level servitor unit used by academic wizards. Gargoyles can be crafted from stone, flesh, metal, and magical materials. There are many different types of gargoyles, and the type of gargoyle a lair produces depends on the materials used, and the lair's evolutionary form. Using high-level magical materials, and increasing the lair's level will yield stronger gargoyles. The current gargoyle lair is at its most basic form. Service lair. Liu Ming exclaimed in astonishment. This is the legendary service lair, a miraculous factory capable of producing artificial service units. In later times, whenever monster hordes attack the Wuling City safe zone, a mysterious military unit would be deployed on the front lines to repel the monster attacks. They possess immense strength and tough skin. Often, even after the human evolved classes hiding behind them have perished at the monster's claws and fangs, this miraculous unit still stands, firm amidst the surging waves of monsters. Rumor has it that they are all artificial warriors from a place called the Arm's Nest, answering solely to the orders of the 3 military and political leaders. This unit is the Colossus, each member a man-made steel giant over 5 meters tall. And this rumor isn't the only one. The Sandstorm Warriors of the Sandstorm Demon Hunter Corps, the Berserkers of the Wuling Demon Hunters, the Silver Guards of the Wuling Merchant Alliance, and many others all hail from the legendary Arm's Nest. Although the name of the Gargoyle Nest suggests it's significantly weaker than these legendary units, it still excites him. It means he'll have a powerful army that obeys his orders completely, can fight with him wherever he goes, and is loyal and unwavering. Moreover, this army can produce an endless supply of soldiers. As Liu Ming touched the outer wall of the dark grey gargoyle nest, a thought suddenly entered his mind. Master, would you like to create a gargoyle? The consciousness is cold, emotionless voice echoed in his mind. Create. Liu Ming replied eagerly. Just like the sacrifices he had made at the 4-color altar, this was his first time in 2 lifetimes producing a legendary artificial soldier, and his excitement was palpable. Master, please select the type of gargoyle. Currently, there are 3 types of gargoyles that can be produced. Regular gargoyle, gargoyle guard, and gargoyle soldier. 3 3-dimensional projections materialized in Liu Ming's mind as the consciousness described them. Each was a grotesque creature, standing upright like an oversized bat. It possessed 2 enormous black-gray bat wings, 2 sharp claw-like arms hidden beneath them, and 2 sharp fangs, like a vampire. The overall appearance was eerie and extremely aggressive. This was the appearance of a regular gargoyle. The second type of gargoyle resembled a statue, also with two grey stone wings splayed out behind it. Its limbs were thick, its body was taller and more powerful, its muscles bulging like a Roman warrior's stone sculpture, radiating a sense of power. This was the gargoyle guard. The third type of gargoyle soldier was somewhat similar to the first type of regular gargoyle, but taller and clad in black armor. Its left hand, instead of a claw, held a round shield like a human's, while its right hand, instead of an arm, held a sharp blade. Perhaps an arm blade would be more appropriate, with a slashing power no less than a sword. Each of the three forms had its own unique characteristics, but the regular form seemed the easiest to produce. Produce a regular gargoyle. Liu Ming commanded the mysterious cold consciousness. Master, please prepare 150 kilograms of fresh meat, 500 kilograms of stone, and a magic crystal as the gargoyle's power core. The consciousness's cold voice instantly shattered Liu Ming's impatience. Alright, does the gargoyle still need a magic crystal to power it? Liu Ming asked, suppressing a tinge of disappointment. He didn't want the gargoyle he created to be a charged object, only to have it suddenly run out of energy during battle, and transform into a true stone statue. No need, Master. A gargoyle can absorb all external energy through its driving core, but the driving core has a lifespan, ranging from a few years to hundreds of years depending on the quality of the magic crystal. Magic crystal was what this consciousness called it. According to Liu Ming's memory, the so-called magic crystal was the raw stone. The primordial energy contained in the raw stone was another way of saying magic power. Just then, footsteps could be heard from outside the door. The people had already brought back the offerings. Then you should return to the nest first, Liu Ming instructed the consciousness. Yes, Master, the nest spirit is at your service at any time. After the consciousness finished its last words, it fell silent, and Liu Ming knew it had returned to the nest. The nest was 4 or 5 meters tall, occupying nearly half of the 4-colored altar, which was 1 meter high and several dozen square meters. Liu Ming and more than a dozen men took nearly 20 minutes to remove it from the altar. It's no exaggeration to say that with Liu Ming's current strength, lifting a mid to large sedan weighing 1 or 2 tons would be effortless. However, moving the slayer left him sweating profusely, his head steaming. It weighed at least 10 tons, as much as a fully loaded truck. After moving the gargoyle lair to the edge of the altar, Liu Ming led the others in the sacrifice. Nearly 1,000 evolved hounds were brought to the altar one by one. Although most were ordinary evolved hounds, barely reaching F rank, and thus only receiving slightly more divine grace than ordinary cannibal corpses, the sheer number was staggering. After allocating the number of sacrifices, based on each person's kill count, Marjan called out each person's names. In the end, the remaining 30%, nearly 300, belonged to Liu Ming. Mortal, you're back again, the female priest's emotional voice echoed again from within the light barrier. P.S. I just got off the highway, and I'm writing this update in the car. It's a bit late, so please forgive me. I'd like to thank my fellow readers, Skybreaking LV and Eternal Emperor Demon God, for their support. I'd also like to thank everyone who's voted and supported Fengsha recently. Everyone knows Fengsha hasn't been asking for votes lately, but with Dragon Breeder's performance repeatedly failing, I'm feeling a bit down and out, and I'm about to break the rules. Please vote for me. If you think Dragon Breeder looks good, and don't want to see Fengsha flop, and continue to languish at the bottom of the rankings, I hope anyone who has votes will give it a try. Thank you. Chapter 61. Gargoyle's Nest, Treehouse Square, Part 2. Why do you call me a mortal? Is there really a god behind the altar? Liu Ming asked, looking at the priestess with interest. The priestess smiled at Liu Ming but said nothing. Alright, then, let's begin the sacrifice. Liu Ming hadn't intended to extract any information from the priestess. After all, no one in later generations had ever been heard of anyone being able to extract any information about the altar's existence from the altar's priestess. When Liu Ming emerged from the altar's barrier, he now possessed 7 more divine gifts. Let's go, let them rest in peace, he sighed, looking at the bodies of more than a dozen companions being carried back. He had Ran carve a dozen mud pits on the stone slabs near the train station square and bury them all there. He then used his sharp blade to chop down more than a dozen thick tree trunks, quickly carving them into wooden plaques. He recorded the names and dates of birth and death of the people before him. For those whose dates were unknown, he simply inscribed the date of death, and finally stuck them into the small grave mounds that Zhizhen Rang had made by rolling up the sand and gravel. Liang Feng, Zhang Suran, Liu Zhengming, and others names that Liu Ming hadn't always recognized, but were deeply etched in his mind were buried beneath the earth. 16 lives had been buried forever beneath 3 feet of yellow earth, and all Liu Ming could do was add another handful of earth to their piles. Though he'd grown accustomed to death, Liu Ming couldn't help but feel a touch of melancholy when the deaths were all from his trusted and respected men. The hardest thing in life is separation, let alone the separation of life and death, he sighed, leaving those still mourning the dead behind, before turning and leaving. He needed to meticulously manage this future lair. It wasn't impenetrable, but it couldn't be destroyed by a single monster attack. Although he remembered the future Wuling City safe zone encompassing the train station, until it was established, he had to rely on himself. Even if it were established, the dangers posed by humanity within the human race wouldn't be any less severe than those posed by monsters. He could only trust himself. He placed his palm on a tree in the square, barely 2 meters tall and as thick as a bowl. Druid treehouse alive. This was the divine power bestowed upon Liu Ming by the 4 chain demons and a lord mutant. Under the dark green light from Liu Ming's palm, the small tree began to grow wildly. In less than 3 minutes, it had luxuriated in branches and leaves, reaching a height so thick it could be embraced by 3 people, a towering tree 4 or 5 stories tall. Most strikingly, the trunk of the tree grew thicker as it ascended, its crown resembling a small tree house, at least 10 meters in diameter. A ladder made of branches dangled from one side for climbing. This way, once one climbed up and pulled the ladder up, living in a treehouse 7 or 8 meters above the ground would effectively protect against attacks from monsters with weak jumping abilities. Liu Ming avoided the ladder and, using a single leap from a branch, gained momentum and leaped onto the treetops. The treehouse-like structure at the crown featured a round wooden door. He gently pushed it open, and a genuine treehouse appeared before him. The wooden benches, beds, and tables attached to the treehouse came into view. The wooden tables, patterned with ancient growth rings, held wooden cups, bowls, chopsticks, and spoons. There was even a wooden pillow on the bed. Next to the wooden table and bed, a small round window opened and closed automatically, hidden by wooden shutters. Behind the windows were curtains of verdant branches and leaves. At the other end of the cabin was an even smaller room with a toilet-like structure, the drain pipe running directly to the tree's roots. Amazing. They even have fertilizer for the treehouse. The wooden wall of the cabin, less than 4 square meters, had a small wooden pipe with a button. With a simple press of a button, Liu Ming released a stream of clear water. The treehouse even had its own rain shower, a truly amazing addition. The small treehouse resembled a single room, small but complete. The crowd, still mourning their deceased companion, was drawn to the scene by Liu Ming's commotion and climbed up to the treetops, stunned by the fairytale-like scene. "Uncle, did you conjure this up?" Zheshengnan asked with her mouth wide open in surprise. Everyone shared the same expression. "Yes, this will be our home from now on," Liu Ming nodded in response. "Wow, living in a treehouse, so cool. This treehouse is mine, and no one can snatch it from me." Liu Huchuan excitedly threw himself on the wooden bed and rolled over twice to declare his sovereignty. By this time, his severed finger had regenerated, and the 2 seriously injured and dying members of their team had also recovered. Team 5 was the only team without any casualties, so he was in a relatively good mood. Zheshengnan let out a loud puff, as if spitting at the long-haired man who had snatched the first treehouse while she was questioning the uncle. "Don't worry, everyone will be assigned one. You can enjoy the tour first. I'll continue to activate the tree houses." Liu Ming chuckled and jumped down from the treetops, walking towards the other trees. This train station was built over 20 years ago, so there aren't many towering trees. The oldest and tallest trees are only about 2 or 3 stories tall, 7 or 8 meters. Liu Ming chose the tallest tree to animate this time. As the boss, he couldn't afford to compromise. As for the fear of attacking in the most conspicuous place, after 2 lives, if he could still be killed in his old nest, he would have no excuse. This time, the activation took several times longer than before, a full 10 minutes to complete. This time, the tree was animated to a massive tree, 50 or 60 meters tall. The treehouse nestled in its canopy was as large as a 2-story villa. Liu Ming's jumping ability was too strong to reach the treetops, so he had to climb up using a ladder made of branches. This treehouse was much more luxurious than the smaller one, only about 10 or 20 square meters. It resembled a villa built entirely from wood, split into 2 floors. In addition to the wooden bed, wooden table, and chairs we'd seen earlier, there were also wooden coffee tables, sofas, sinks, dining tables, and even a row of wooden sofa-like chairs. There were 7 or 8 rooms in total, including one on the 2nd floor, complete with several rows of wooden bookshelves, a study. What a miraculous power! Liu Ming marveled at the magical effects of this power, which seemed to create something. After activating the 8th treehouse, he felt his yuan qi and physical strength had been completely depleted, and he estimated that he wouldn't be able to activate it again for a while. The result was that the train station square was completely transformed into a treehouse square, with 6 small tree houses and 2 large tree houses rising from the ground in just over half an hour. After Marjun, Jeshengnan, and others who had been sent to fetch the 3 tree houses returned, he began to allocate the tree houses. All ordinary people will share a tree house, 2 people each. The magic seal warriors will each have a room, and Kejunran, the chief chef, will also have a room to himself. Because we are currently short on tree houses, we'll have 3 people per room. 6 small tree houses plus 2 large tree houses make a total of 20 rooms, just enough to accommodate everyone. Marjun, you can allocate the rooms, Liu Ming said, and then he entered his treehouse villa. He planned to spend the night cultivating yuan qi in the wooden study. This was everyone's first apocalyptic night in Treehouse Square. Although the surroundings were empty and without shelter, the sight of the 5 bloodthirsty sawtooth vines dancing like demons in the distance gave everyone a sense of security. P.S. An early update. A legitimate plea for votes. I'm begging for recommendations and tips from everyone. This week's ranking is lower than last week's, but I feel like everyone was incredibly supportive yesterday. Someone asked Fengsha to post ads and pump up votes, but Fengsha, a stuffy otaku, can't do that, but he still has the guts to ask for votes. Keep asking. With your support, I'm sure the rankings will rise. A huge thank you to everyone who voted and tipped yesterday. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Treehouse Dinner, Monster Troops. In Liu Ming's treehouse, everyone gathered for a dinner celebrating the victory of this bloody battle. While it might be called a dinner, the scale was only comparable to a small restaurant dinner in peacetime, but in the dark days of the apocalypse, where countless people lived in constant fear and had no food to eat, it was considered a feast. Kejunran was naturally in charge of the kitchen, and the ingredients were shipped from Chengmeo Garden and found in small supermarkets near the train station. The only difficulty was getting a fire, as the treehouse was made of wood and not suitable for cooking. In the end, Miao Fengji, a starving woman, came up with a quick idea. Ji Zhenirong, who was relaxing comfortably under the treehouse, used his earth-based abilities to build a rudimentary kitchen in the square. Then, using several LPG tanks and pots and pans looted by Marjun and his men, they began cooking. Liu Ming's treehouse was spacious, with a thick circular wooden platform perched atop the treetops. The entire treehouse rested on this platform, about 10 to 20 meters in diameter and 2 to 3 meters thick. Over 60 people sat around the dining table in 3 circles, one inside and one outside. Those without chairs sat on the floor, yet the atmosphere remained congested. Dinner's main course consisted of 3 dishes: braised lion's head, a type of meatball, cola chicken wings, and sweet and sour pork ribs, accompanied by 5 large pots of rice cooked directly in a pressure cooker. The braised lion's head, smothered in a vibrant red broth, was placed before the group on 4 large wooden plates. Each plate held dozens of fragrant half-fist-sized meatballs, each glistening red and topped with chopped green scallions. The vibrant red and green contrast whetted the appetite. Liu Ming took the overflowing wooden bowl of rice, saying enjoy, and was the first to scoop 3 or 4 into his own bowl. Amidst a flurry of laughter and scolding, the group began the dinner. The second course, cola chicken wings, followed, a familiar favorite. The wings and meat were sourced from a supermarket cold storage that hadn't completely lost power, preserving their freshness. Other ingredients like cola and cooking wine were everywhere, and finally, in Junren's hands, the ingredients were transformed into this delicious cola chicken wings. After finishing the third home-cooked dish, sweet and sour pork ribs, Liu Ming casually praised the dish and asked Junren curiously, "How did you make this braised lion's head? Why are the ones I've had so bland and flavorless before, while yours is so tender and juicy?" "Boss, braised lion's head is also called 4 happiness meatballs. To make 4 happiness meatballs, you need 70% lean meat and 30% fat. Finely chop and roughly chop them, about the size of rice grains. Don't chop too finely, so that there are gaps between the meat to retain the juices. Maybe that's how it stays tender and juicy." Junren was still a little nervous around Liu Ming, but when the topic turned to his culinary expertise, he immediately became eloquent, leaving everyone stunned. "It's a shame not to be a chef in peacetime. Now that you're full, go back and rest," Liu Ming teased, then took the lead and went upstairs. Everyone else who wasn't assigned to the treehouse villa also climbed down the branch ladder and returned to their respective treehouses. With the exception of Liu Ming's study, all the treehouse rooms were occupied by several people sharing a bed. Sumi, having just enjoyed a hearty meal with Rang outside, curled up quietly beside Liu Ming and fell asleep. Of course, the 2 dragon pets' food came from a few evolved dogs still roaming nearby. They weren't particularly interested in cooked human food, preferring raw meat roasted medium rare with a puff of dragon breath to taste just right. In her disguised form, Sumi, barely larger than a full-grown pet dog, nestled her furry head against Liu Ming's lap, occasionally snoring adorably. Night fell over the treehouse square. With Rang and Zuteng watching below, everyone fell into a rare, peaceful sleep. Only Liu Ming remained, sitting cross-legged in his study, cultivating his yuan qi. The night passed quickly. After closing his 5 senses, he achieved a sleep-like effect during yuan qi cultivation. Despite the night's practice, Liu Ming remained energetic. He was the first to rise, and Sumi, hearing the noise, followed suit. After washing his face and rinsing his hair at the first floor sink, Liu Ming stroked his stubble and, feeling refreshed, climbed down from the treetops. Sumi, using a branch for leverage, instantly leaped down from the dozens-meter-tall tree. While everyone was still asleep, Liu Ming had already animated 10 more tree houses in the square. When everyone woke up, there was no sign of Liu Ming. He had already arrived at the gargoyle nest in the train station ticket hall, carrying a dozen monsters weighing hundreds of kilograms, along with over 10 tons of stone transported by Rang via the Earth gravity field. Ling, produce a regular gargoyle first, Liu Ming ordered, placing his left hand on the nest. "Yes, master, please place the materials in the nest." The nest, resembling a giant egg, suddenly cracked open in front of Liu Ming. He placed the hundreds-kilogram monster carcass inside, along with several large blocks of stone and a piece of raw stone. The crack closed instantly, and a crushing and churning sound echoed from within the nest. About 6 or 7 minutes later, an elliptical arch opened within the several-meter-tall nest, and a figure resembling a large bat flew out, waving 2 sharp claws, shaking its barbed tail, and flapping its fleshy wings. Standing on the ground, it was a head shorter than Liu Ming. Apart from its wings, it was about the size of an average human teenager, but its hands and feet were pierced with claws, and 2 thick fangs jutted from the corners of its mouth, giving it a look of considerable combat prowess. "Master," a voice, as emotionless as the nest's intelligent spirit, echoed within him. "Intelligent spirit, does it have a sense of its own?" Liu Ming asked. "Master, low-level gargoyles don't have a sense of their own, they're only programmed to fight and kill. As expected. Produce another gargoyle guard and another gargoyle soldier." Please continue to fill in the materials. Over an hour later, when Liu Ming emerged from the hall, behind him, in addition to Sumi and Ji Zhenrong, there was also a team of monsters, their fleshy wings flapping and hovering in the air. These materials yielded a total of 13 gargoyle servants. 4 of these were placed on the walls surrounding the altar to protect it. They stood silently, like statues, on the perimeter. Aside from Liu Ming, anyone attempting to sneak up on the altar would undoubtedly be met with a swift attack from these 4 statuesque gargoyles. There were also 7 regular gargoyles and 2 gargoyle soldiers. The resources required to produce regular gargoyles had already been learned from Xiling, but the materials required for the gargoyle guards were significantly higher. 200 kilograms of fresh meat wasn't much more than a regular gargoyle, but the stone required was a full 1.5 tons, and 2 units of mana crystal, twice as much as a regular gargoyle. Of course, their power was also significantly greater. While the energy level of a regular gargoyle was around 1.14, the energy level of a gargoyle guard was over 1.18. However, gargoyle guards cannot fly long distances. Their wings, a combination of flesh and stone, only allow them to glide briefly around buildings. Therefore, they are generally used for guard duty, employed by wizards to protect castles or magic towers. The most powerful are gargoyle soldiers, each boasting an E-level overall combat capability and an energy level exceeding 1.21. However, they consume several times more resources than regular gargoyles, requiring not only flesh and stone, but also a significant amount of metal. Their production requires 500 kilograms of flesh, 1 ton of stone, half a ton of steel, and 5 units of mana crystal. Liu Ming exhausted all of his available raw stones to create 2 gargoyle soldiers. PS. This update was updated 2.5 hours early. This update was added thanks to the donations from fellow readers, Monka's single sky-breaking level, Eternal Emperor Demon, and book friend 161,027,174,153,586. Thanks to the invincible Ji Wang for his donations. To celebrate the birth of the Dragon Breeder's second disciple, Ji Wang, there will be more updates tomorrow. I'd also like to thank everyone who voted for Fengsha and recommended Dragon Breeder today. Fengsha only has a mere 2,000 favorites, but today's recommendation votes surpassed many books with 6, 7, or even 10,000 favorites. Fengsha is incredibly impressed by the incredible fighting spirit of the fans and is grateful for everyone's love and support for Dragon Breeder. Dragon Breeder is only 60 chapters in, so it's still a young seedling. I hope everyone will work with Fengsha to nurture it into a truly remarkable novel. Thank you all, and I appreciate it. Finally, I continue to ask for votes, tips, and support. Fengsha has replaced the treehouse's spiral staircase with a flexible ladder. This makes it more logical and safer for Liu Ming and his friends. Those who have already read the previous chapters are welcome to check back. Chapter 63, Brain Crystal's Magical Use, Rescue Operation. The summer morning breeze still carried a slight chill, rustling through the branches of the dozen or so enormous tree houses dotting the square in the morning light. The rustling of leaves was a constant. If you didn't count the monsters roaming the square, it would have been a beautiful morning. No need to squeeze into buses or subways. No need to wake up early for work. Everyone could sleep in naturally. The only thing people needed was to survive, to exist. For those surviving the apocalypse, survival was undoubtedly a luxury. For the survivors of the treehouse square, survival, while equally challenging, was comparatively easier. Because of today's special operation, the usual 2 meals a day had been temporarily reduced to breakfast and dinner. Breakfast was ready, but no one dared to touch their bowls, because the boss had disappeared. Miao Fengji, who seemed easily hungry, idly banged her wooden bowl with her chopsticks, mumbling to herself. Although she didn't speak aloud, a lip reader could tell she was cursing Liu Ming for starving her. Boss. A sharp-eyed young man spotted Liu Ming the moment he emerged from the train station ticket hall and stood up, shouting excitedly. Boss, are you back? We can finally have dinner. Oh my god, look what's following boss. A flying monster chasing boss. Go help. Seeing a group of people aggressively charging towards his gargoyle army, Liu Ming quickly stopped them. After understanding the reason, he said with a look of amused surprise, "These are our new companions, the gargoyles." Everyone stared at the gargoyles with curiosity. Having gradually become familiar with Chicken Thief Ran and the bloodthirsty Sawtooth Vine, they were no longer surprised by Liu Ming's often bizarre pets. Compared to the 8 regular gargoyles, whose appearance was hideous and more like monsters, the 2 gargoyle soldiers, taller than ordinary people, clad in armor, and armed with weapons, standing nearly 2 meters tall, and with a wingspan of nearly 4 meters, clearly attracted everyone's attention and curiosity. But their curiosity was eventually overwhelmed by their rumbling stomachs, and everyone returned to the table. As Liu Ming instructed, today's breakfast resumed as normal. Everyone received a bowl of noodles with a side dish. Portions were divided into 2 tiers, based on the ranking of the 8 teams. Each team had its own small pot, containing a variety of dishes, from high to low. The ordinary people ate together, with Liu Ming, Zheshengnan, and Marjan sitting together. After breakfast, he ordered the 4 gargoyle guards to temporarily suspend their alert and attack mode. Marjan led the others to sacrificially remove the monsters that had roamed the square the previous night and morning, killed by Gzeli Rang and the others on guard. Liu Ming then returned to the treehouse villa alone. He pulled a milky white crystal from his bosom and, with a gentle flick of his sharp blade, sliced through the outer layer of the crystal. This was the brain crystal from the Lord's mutant, a miraculous item later hailed as a treasure. A slash was made in the crystal wall, and a thick, dark white liquid slowly flowed out. Liu Ming quickly collected all the deep white liquid in his palm and carefully applied it to the crown of his forehead. This deep white liquid was later scientifically known as brain crystal melting essence. Each gram of brain crystal melting essence was worth at least 10,000 times the value of the same massive raw stone. In other words, the mere 20 or 30 grams of liquid in Liu Ming's palm was worth more than 200 or 300 kilograms of raw stone. It had a single, unique function, to develop the user's brain, significantly increasing their mental power. This increased mental power also imparted certain traits of the Lord's variant, such as disorientation, hallucinations, and even a subtle degree of control. It was called melting essence because of its exceptionally strong fusion properties. Simply applying it to the skin would penetrate the body. Later experiments and research revealed that applying it between the eyebrows was most effective, as it could penetrate directly into the cerebral cortex, deeply developing the brain. A refreshing, cooling sensation began to seep into Liu Ming's brain from between his eyebrows, like a stream of fresh water on a scorching summer day, and he couldn't help but sigh in relief. After more than 10 minutes, Liu Ming, who had been confined to his eyes, suddenly opened them. The air around him suddenly became turbulent as his eyes opened, as if a small mental storm had stirred. With a blink, the mental storm dissipated. Anyone observing him would have noticed that his eyes were exceptionally bright, as if a sense of clarity penetrated deep into one's heart. Liu Ming stood up and climbed the ladder, emerging in a few seconds into the square. Meanwhile, several cannibals staggered down the street not far from the square. As they watched Liu Ming approach, they suddenly bolted towards him like cheetahs spotting a herd of deer. Liu Ming stopped, his eyes fixed on the 3 attacking cannibals. 3 mental energies, woven with the will to submit, transformed into mental storms that burst forth from his eyes, piercing the cannibals' minds. A consciousness imbued with bloodlust, madness, a desire to feed, and bloodlust instantly surged into Liu Ming's mind, woven through this connection of mental energy. In that instant, his eyes suddenly turned blood red, and he let out a beast-like growl, but then his vision returned to clarity. So mind control is so dangerous. Liu Ming shuddered inwardly. He'd only found 3 ordinary cannibal corpses to test his newly acquired mind control abilities, and he'd nearly lost his mind. If it weren't for the willpower honed in his later life to resist this bloodthirsty and mad consciousness, he might have truly lost his mind. When the mental storm transformed into mental power and returned to his brain, he discovered that his mental power seemed to extend 3 white strings, connecting the 3 cannibal corpses like puppets. Turn around, squat, throw yourself down. The 3 low-level monsters, completely devoid of self-awareness, their actions driven by mad desire, meticulously followed Liu Ming's every command. Continue wandering. The sound of footsteps echoed from nearby, and Liu Ming gave his new subordinates his final instructions. Liu Ming didn't want to share this kind of control ability with others unless absolutely necessary. In later generations, anyone with the ability to control others was on a list of key military and political surveillance. Because in later generations, some people were keen on using this ability to control and enslave the human mind, becoming anti-human supervillains and posing a significant threat to the safety of the safe zone. How are the results? Liu Ming asked Ma Jun as he approached him. He had previously asked Ma Jun to compile a list of all those living in Wuling City. When he had made the decision to relocate to the train station, he had promised that after victory, he would personally lead the team to rescue the surviving relatives. He also planned to take this opportunity to relocate the survivors in Gong Weeksin's shelter. He would never let go of such potential helpers as Jian Chu and Gong's Yuju. Even if he couldn't use them for his own benefit, he would definitely show them some favor. Boss, there are a total of 32 people living in Wuling City, Ma Jun replied, immediately pulling out a notebook. 32 people and all the magic seal warriors, step out. With Liu Ming's command, only a dozen ordinary survivors remained. PS. First update here. I'd like to thank my 4 brothers against the environment, Gaojan 45, Stupid Man Likes Reading, and Forgetful Illusion, for their support. I'll update tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, respectively. I'd like to thank all the brothers who voted yesterday. With just a small force, you guys pushed the Dragon Breeder's recommendation up. Thank you so much. The brothers are really strong. But the recommendation rankings are unstable again. Let me shout again. Where are the 2,000 brothers from the Black Wind Cave in Black Wind Mountain? Tang Sanzang and his disciples are coming to kill us, so don't hide. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote in any way you can. Please reward. Please support. Finally, I'd like to give an advertisement to the guy named One Life name in the book club. He's in urgent need of teammates to play with. It doesn't matter if it's King of Glory or Identity V. There are only 3 of us left in the book club, howling every day. Brothers who play games or just love to chat, please come quickly. The group number is 705,387,791. Chapter 64. The Demonic Snake in the Court. Fei Yi appears. Part 1. Which magic seal warriors aren't native to Wuling? Liu Ming suddenly asked. Me, and me. 10 magic seal warriors spoke up. You stay with these ordinary survivors. Ma Jun, you and Garlin take them. If you encounter irresistible danger, hide at the 5 blood vines and wait for my return. Everyone else, follow me. Liu Ming issued a series of orders, leading the group out of the treehouse square. Ma Jun had no relatives in Wuling City besides his son, excluding his ex-wife, so it was a good idea for Liu Ming to have him and Garlin stay behind, giving him peace of mind. Since being summoned to this world, Garlin, the underage dwarf, had spent his days guzzling juice and gesticulating with others, recounting his thrilling adventures with legendary body language. He was living a perfectly pleasant life. Now, even if Liu Ming sent him back, he probably wouldn't be willing to do so. Liu Ming and the others first headed to the Chengmao Garden Group 1 residential complex, where a girl named Chu Huxin and her family had lived before the disaster. Although Group 1 and Group 7, where Liu Ming previously lived, differed by only a single letter, the distance was not close. Even a short drive from Group 7 took nearly 10 minutes. Chengmao Garden, a massive development in Wuling City by the real estate company where his men worked, encompassed Groups 1 through 7, dozens of buildings and nearly 10,000 units, housing no fewer than 30,000 people. The nearly 40 men involved in this operation were crammed into the beds of 2 dump trucks that had broken down near the train station. Ji Rang cleared the dirt and rocks from the trucks and then used his water abilities to flush them, transforming the sturdy crash-resistant trucks into simple troop transports. Fatty Kin and Lin Bing were driving, while Liu Ming sat cross-legged, statuesque, on the roof of the lead truck's cab. Whenever a mutated bird or a monster with incredible leaping power lunged at the trucks, he would slash them in half with a blade, imbued with crimson molten lava. Monsters drawn to the convoy by the noise were driven back within striking distance by the tree-colored breath of Ji Rong, who was sprinting alongside them. Miao Fengji, sitting in a car behind, had her destroyed alloy sword replaced with a divine grace sword. Her sword spirit swirled around her, and whenever a monster attacked, it would swirl and slash back and forth like a flying sword, often sending the monster plummeting to the ground before it could even reach the truck bed. Even the stronger flying monsters that attacked the vehicles were instantly ripped to shreds by the 9 gargoyles flying closely behind the convoy. After a safe journey, the group was about to approach the second residential complex next to the first residential complex when something unexpected happened. Dark figures suddenly emerged from a tall building on the side of the road and swooped down towards the convoy. As they approached, they revealed themselves to be monstrous snakes with 2 pairs of cicada wings and 2 claws on their abdomens. Each of the strange snakes was 2 or 3 meters long. They swooped down, flapping their wings to adjust their direction, and headed straight for the people on the dump truck bed. Ting's Hang demonic snake? Liu Ming's eyes flashed with shock. This was one of the monsters that had wreaked havoc in Ting's Hang County, under the jurisdiction of Wuling City, at the beginning of the apocalypse. Unlike the monsters that appeared in Jialing County and Wuling City, Ting's Hang County, where Feng Zhengmao, the first thunder god, presided over the demonic passage, was a dimensional portal from the demonic realm. Not many demons were arriving from the demonic realm, nor were there any prototypes of military units like those from the abyssal hell and purgatory being transported. However, the demonic realm's highly contagious demonic energy continuously poured into the area surrounding Ting's Hang County, transforming even ordinary birds and beasts into ferocious monsters under its influence. The Ting's Hang demonic snake was a collective name for a group of demonic snakes that had been transformed by the demonic energy at a large snake farm on the outskirts of Ting's Hang County. It's said that the source of this demonic energy is a 6-legged, 4-winged, nearly 100-meter long demon from the demonic realm. Therefore, regardless of the species of snake that was possessed by the Ting's Hang demonic snake, the demonic energy of this great demon would imbue it with wings and legs. At the dawn of the apocalypse, this demonic snake possessed the destructive power to devastate the entire Ting's Hang County, yet it seemed not to relish destruction, instead using the entire county as a hunting ground for its offspring and minions. It wasn't until 2 years into the apocalypse that this terrifying serpent was driven out of the Ting's Hang County safe zone by the combined efforts of the county's powerful, led by the thunder god Gancheng. Besides its striking appearance, it possessed a terrifying devouring power, devouring all life in the land it crawled over, even absorbing the geothermal heat as pure energy. As a result, the land it passed through became completely dry, as if a global drought had struck. According to the deductions of some later experts, the demon's physical and behavioral characteristics, as well as its terrifying ability to turn the earth into drought, made it highly likely a creature from the ancient text classic of mountains and seas. According to the classic of mountains and seas, Western Mountains, 60 miles further west is Mount Tehua, cut into a square shape, 5,000 feet high and 10 miles wide. No birds or beasts live there. There lives a snake called Phison, Fiwei, with 6 legs and 4 wings. Its appearance brings about a severe drought. This translates to Mount Tehua, whose sheer, knife-cut cliffs are square, 9,000 meters high, 1 ren is about 1.8 meters, and 10 miles wide, making it impossible for birds or beasts to inhabit. Within the mountain, there lives a snake called Phison, with 6 legs and 4 wings. Its appearance brings about a severe drought. It is very likely the Phison beast described in the text. This unusual snake is also known as Fie. The court demonic snakes appeared in Wuling, dozens of kilometers away. There's only one possibility: a descendant of the fatty relic is leading his demonic snakes on a hunt. If a descendant of the fatty relic is truly behind this group of demonic snakes, then we'll be in trouble. Liu Ming frowned, his expression shifting from his previous, relaxed stroll to a solemn one. The fatty relics are monsters of at least C rank. Even the weakest of them, in this apocalyptic era, is no less terrifying than the corpse wizards he encountered earlier. A memory flashed through his mind. The first court demonic snake only had time to let out a piercing, blood-curdling scream before Liu Ming's blade ripped it in two. But then, dozens more court demonic snakes pounced. As Liu Ming slashed at the first snake, the gargoyles following the convoy quickly flapped their fleshy wings and flew over to block their masters. A fierce battle ensued between the gargoyle troops and the court demonic snakes, which outnumbered them by several orders of magnitude. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the gargoyles completely suppressed the demon snake's attack. Numerous demon snakes were reduced to corpses and fell from the sky under the gargoyles' claws and arm blades. Meanwhile, of the 9 gargoyles, only 2 regular gargoyles, unable to take flight, fell to the ground after their fleshy wings were shredded by the demon snake's legs and fangs. The remaining gargoyles continued to fiercely attack the snakes. It wasn't that the gargoyles were significantly more powerful than the court demon snakes, but rather that the demon snakes' abilities were largely neutralized by the gargoyles. Their terrifying venom was ineffective against the semi-elemental life forms of the gargoyles, and the snake's usual strangulation tactics were even more ineffective against the gargoyles. Their claws and fangs also struggled to penetrate the gargoyles' rock-hard defenses. In terms of power, the court demon snakes were actually comparable to regular gargoyles, but with their power completely suppressed, the battle quickly turned against them. Most of the people on the dump truck were unable to intervene in the mid-air battle, and the demon snakes still flying overhead had decreased by nearly a third. P.S. The second update is here in advance. This chapter is a bonus chapter for the invincible King G. Thank you so much for your support. I'm also grateful to my 3 brothers, Juha, Buwiki Angdaminanzi, and Zayaziaki Dialing Borahu Weeming, for their tips and support. I'll add more chapters on Friday and Saturday, respectively. It's been a long day in the recommended rankings, brothers. I'm dedicating a song of coolness to everyone. Finally, at night, the wind and sand roar again, and we struggle. Please vote, tip, and support. If you have any recommendations, please help Dragon Breeder push it up. Thank you. Chapter 65, The Demonic Snake in the Court. Fei appears, Part 2. Watching the demonic snake's attack grow more ferocious as its kin fell to the ground one after another, as if it were a cornered beast, Liu Ming's gliding shoes, like wings dangling from his shoes, suddenly spread open. After a brief dash, he soared into the air, gliding like a soaring bird. This was the gliding shoe's low altitude gliding ability. With just a few slashes, he slew the demonic snake. Just as he was searching for his next target, a sudden, turbid, grey-black demonic aura suddenly assaulted him. Liu Ming quickly covered his mouth, nose, and eyes. Many demonic auras possessed potent toxins and corrosive properties. Bang! Just as he covered his mouth and nose, preparing to use the gliding power of his shoes to accelerate out of the demonic aura's reach, a tail as thick as a wheel lashed out. Liu Ming quickly dodged, but the massive tail still slashed through his body, pulling him back into the dense fog of demonic energy. A ferocious snake-like figure with 4 wings and 6 legs loomed faintly beyond the dense fog. Fat descendant, you finally revealed yourself. Liu Ming wiped the blood from his mouth and stared at the figure intently. As expected of a creature from the classic of mountains and seas, its strength was extraordinary. He was barely swept by it and was injured. The people on the dump truck below gasped in surprise as they saw Liu Ming being attacked. The 2 archers immediately drew their divine arrows and shot at the attacking figure. The figure fluttered its 2 pairs of fleshy wings and hovered silently in the air, making no effort to evade the arrows. Ding 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 ding. Arrows that could pierce homogeneous steel only left a series of sparks on its scales. Fuck, a monster. Lu Zeduo, the team's leading archer, couldn't help but curse at the sight. He only had 9 divine arrows, and 2 consecutive shots hadn't even left a dent in the monster. I'm afraid it really is a monster. Chuhuxin, a female archer beside him, and the one who had suggested the rescue destination, muttered with a similarly grim expression. She had also lost 2 divine arrows. Sumi, Jizerong, and everyone else, deal with the demonic snake. Gargoyle, follow me. Liu Ming suddenly roared, bursting out of the demonic fog and charging straight at the 20 to 30 meter long monstrous snake. It was undoubtedly the ugliest snake he had ever seen. Its entire body was covered in black scales, but the flesh beneath them was pitted and lumpy, as if covered in lumps of flesh. Its 4 wings, unlike flesh, were transparent, like the wings of dragonflies and cicadas. These thin wings looked strangely out of place on such a giant snake. Its 6 legs, unlike the sturdy and powerful claws of legendary dragons and eagles, were instead as slender as those of insects, raising concerns about whether these 3 pairs of legs could support the monster's massive body. The snake's body gradually became thinner towards its tail, but the tip of its tail was still as thick as an adult's waist. The most hideous feature was its head. The snake's head shaped like an elongated inverted triangle, its 2 large, crimson pupils tilted upward, its eye sockets forming a V shape, creating a sinister presence. Its scarlet tongue occasionally emitted a characteristic hissing sound. Unlike ordinary snakes, its mouth revealed not only 2 massive fangs, but also a mouthful of sharp, sparsely shaped teeth. Such a sight would scare anyone less courageous than the mere sight of it, let alone the thought of attacking. The snake showed disdain for the arrows fired from the chariot, not even bothering to dodge. However, it could not remain indifferent to Liu Ming's fierce strike. It had witnessed the sharp blade that had just cut its own hand in 2, having just been hiding nearby. With a flap of its wings, it vanished, its tail lashing out at Liu Ming's back. As soon as Liu Ming saw the strange snake disappear, he became wary. Feeling a gust of wind from behind, he dodged the attack. As the snake continued its attack, 7 gargoyles still able to fly arrived, and the court snakes still attacking the vehicle were held back by the crowd. Seeing Liu Ming and 7 clearly formidable gargoyles charging towards it, the snakes leered at him, their eyes clearly filled with disdain and contempt. Before they could close in, they flapped their wings once more, reappearing outside the encirclement, raising their heads, and letting out a piercing hiss. The court snakes attacking the crowd below, at this hissing, that sounded like a call and command, immediately abandoned their attacks on the vehicle. 50 or 60 snakes flapped their wings and flew up, descending upon Liu Ming and the gargoyles. The black mass looked imposing. Its mouth split open like a human's laughter, and its eyes narrowed in disdain as it glared at Liu Ming, as if questioning whether he was outnumbered. Seeing this, Liu Ming immediately flew towards the ground with his gargoyle, fending off the snake's attacks. He and the gargoyle could barely hold off the fat air, but if they joined their horde, they stood no chance. Only by working together could they prevail. The skies weren't their home turf, and their own attacks wouldn't easily harm the monstrous snakes flying at such incredible speeds. But the fat air clearly wasn't going to let off the hook for killing so many of his men. Just as Liu Ming parried 3 incoming snakes, the massive tail struck again. This time, it didn't strike horizontally, but rather from above, lashing directly towards the ground. Even if it didn't shatter his bones, with the limited range of his gliding boots, he'd surely be hurled to the ground, nearly dead. Unable to stop it, he abruptly spun around and hid behind a standard gargoyle. With a thud, the gargoyle blocking his path plummeted to the ground like a bat with its wings broken. The combined force of the blow, the gargoyle shattered like a shattered statue, shattered from the dozens of meters of air below. Seizing the moment when the monster snake launched its second attack, Liu Ming quickly rushed down with the gargoyle. Standing atop the dump truck, Liu Ming gazed up at the seemingly triumphantly serpent circling the convoy, his face tinging with grimace. Of the 9 gargoyles brought out, 1 had already perished, and another, a common survivor, was dying from the venomous fangs of the court serpent. Aside from summoning Cayman to cast a serene light upon the venomed victim, he had no other remedy for the venom. Without the divine grace of detoxification or a spell to heal poison, ordinary humans had no other options except for the powerful evolved physiques of the evolved, who could withstand it. But this individual's physique was clearly insufficient, his face growing increasingly grim. He likely wouldn't be able to hold out much longer. Fei Yi let out a piercing scream, leading the swarm of snakes towards him again. Ji Rang. Liu Ming roared with murderous intent. Ji Rang immediately understood, and over a dozen thick ground spikes shot up into the air, piercing through the snakes in front of him. Startled by the sudden, deadly spikes, Fei Yi's descendants spiraled back into the air with their men. Liu Ming and the snakes locked eyes from afar. The snakes, looking around, realized that 2/5 of their swarm had been reduced. Furious, they unleashed a puff of green mist. Speed up, Liu Ming shouted. The 2 drivers slammed their accelerators, and the 2 dump trucks roared, shooting off like wild horses, avoiding the mist. The green mist sizzled as it landed on the ground, instantly turning the asphalt road into potholes. Those looking back felt a wave of fear. Anyone touched by this demonic mist would be covered in blood, like someone splashed with sulfuric acid. The fat child screamed, seemingly dissatisfied with the blow, but figuring he wouldn't gain much by continuing. He cast a long glance at Liu Ming, then turned and flew away with the snakes. P.S. Here's a first update. Thanks to Ice Angel Archer, Jin Yu, Shadow Kinfeng, Hesp, Juha, and Invincible King Ji for their support. Additional updates will be added on Saturdays and Sundays. As usual, a huge thank you to all the brothers who voted for recommendations and support yesterday. Thank you so much. The Dragon Breeder's recommendation ranking has plummeted again. It's over. I'm still begging for votes. Please vote. Please reward. Please support. Calling 2000 brothers. Chapter 66 Past and Present Life. First Contact. Liu Ming, who had been observing Fei Yi and the snakes, saw them leave, and immediately jumped onto Sumi's back and headed back. After collecting the snake's corpse with his demon hunting device, and collecting the shattered gargoyle's body for possible recreation, he finally returned to the convoy, its two wings broken, and then sprayed with green poison mist, its hardened skin putted. Seeing the two gargoyles following Liu Ming, limping along on clawed feet due to their damaged wings, finally climbing onto the car, everyone felt a sense of eccentricity. They hadn't noticed the gargoyles following the convoy before, but seeing these mysterious creatures, often seen in Western fantasy works, face to face with them on the car, gave everyone the illusion of being in a fantasy movie. Pull over. Liu Ming suddenly said as the convoy approached the intersection. Without waiting for Liu Ming's orders, the 6 remaining gargoyles cleared the surrounding monsters. The survivors previously injected with snake venom lay motionless and lifeless, their faces a dark purple, like those suffocated by a severe stranglehold. We've lost a comrade before we've even saved a single person. For safety's sake, I'm giving you 2 choices. Those willing to continue the rescue will be led by me in the front vehicle. Those unwilling will return in the back dump truck. Make your decision now. Those who choose to return raise their left fists. A commotion erupted in the crowd. Aside from a few exceptionally skilled individuals, everyone looked around to observe the others' choices. Several ordinary survivors hesitated, considering they were the most vulnerable in the event of danger, as evidenced by their comrade's death from the poison. But seeing the motionless sigils, they had no choice but to remain. Since no one is choosing to return, I can only wish you good luck. You should all be aware of the dangers of the road. I hope you will take responsibility for your choices, Liu Ming said, and the convoy continued on its journey. As an orphan of 2 lives, with no more than 5 friends combined, Liu Ming probably struggled to understand the importance of family members in these people's hearts. A low sob suddenly erupted from an apartment in a residential complex. The dead cannot be brought back to life. Please accept my condolences. Huxin, stop crying. A group of girls gathered around the girl who had just joined Lu's duo in shooting arrows at the monstrous snake, offering her comfort. They had rushed to their destination, but their first rescue attempt was not to find a target, but a field of rotting, stinking corpses. This cast a pall over the entire rescue team. Originally confident because the leader was personally leading the team, no one was sure they would finally see their loved ones. Perhaps they would face a doomsday tragedy like Chu Huxin's family. Her family of 4, her parents, siblings, and all 4 had perished in the sudden disaster. I'm the only one left, Sister Piaraksu. I'm the only one left, Chu Huxin said with a devastated expression. I understand. I know Huxin. When my fiancé died, I felt the same heartbreak. Han Piaraksu hugged the tearful girl tightly, patting her back, and whispering soothing words. Liu Ming and Liu Huchuan stood guard outside the door, the apocalyptic crisis looming. Boss, when do you think this damn world will end? Liu Huchuan asked with a pained expression, puffing out a smoke ring from a newly found Furen King cigarette. Having just lost a companion, and then to face this tragedy, no one would be able to bear it. You're asking the wrong person. Perhaps heaven knows the answer. Liu Ming looked up at the sky out the window, lost in thought. Safe zones will be established across the country within a year or so of the apocalypse, but will that ensure human safety? Safe zones breached by monsters, with disasters resulting in the death of tens of millions of people and the loss of only 1 in 100, are common occurrences around the world. Even within safe zones, burrowing worms, grave beasts, vampires, and half-demons often cause bloodshed when they stray into them while hunting. In later generations, demon hunters weren't just about hunting monsters in the wilderness. Capturing and killing various monsters, including yokai, demons, and devils, that hid within human safety zones was also a primary responsibility. The last person he could call a friend in his later life was killed in his sleep by a demon, disguised as a human, hiding within the safety zone, and sucking out his brain matter. He had been sleeping in the room just across the wall from him at the time, completely unaware of his pain and need for help. While the demon's hallucinogenic abilities played a role, the incident gnawed his soul like a monster for years, and he'd never had a true friend since. A rare touch of sadness suddenly crossed Liu Ming's face. "Boss, what's wrong with you?" Liu Huchun, watching from the side, stuttered, his cigarette dropping in shock. This was Liu Ming, the iron-blooded straight-laced man he admired most in his life. When had he ever seen him express such emotion? "It's nothing, just reminiscing about the past." Liu Ming pursed his lips, his usual icy expression returning. Suddenly, a broadcast came from the entrance of the residential complex. Liu Ming and Liu Huchuan looked out the window at the end of the corridor and saw a car with a large signal receiver and a loudspeaker mounted on its roof slowly approaching the complex. "Everyone at home, everyone at home. We are the rescue team sent by the government military district. Everyone who hears the broadcast, please wait patiently at home. We will send rescuers after we have cleared the danger. I repeat, all survivors, please lock your doors and wait for our rescuers to arrive." Then the monster roared and rushed towards the broadcast car, but behind it emerged a convoy of vehicles. Strongly armed men wearing riot helmets and body armor, armed with firearms, rushed out with heavy weapons. A burst of gunfire and fighting rang out. "Boss, is this the government taking action?" Liu Huchuan asked Liu Ming. "Yes," Liu Ming replied calmly. "Should we contact them?" "No, I'm not on their side." Liu Huchuan fell silent upon hearing this. He discerned the deeper meaning in Liu Ming's words. He'd said I, not we. If he spoke any more at this point, he'd likely be seen as someone who wasn't on the same side as the boss. The most powerful forces in the future were undoubtedly the military and political administrations of the various safe zones. Although social order had been thrown into disarray by the catastrophe, no force possessed the organizational capacity and cohesion to rival the government military and worthy of replacing them. Therefore, engaging with the military and political administration was inevitable, but not now. At the dawn of the apocalypse, the leaders of these administrations hadn't fully grasped that this was an era where individual power could even surpass collective strength. Leveraging their military and police power, they maintained a bureaucratic style, forcing ordinary people to hand over any benefits and gifts under the guise of legitimate means. Dangerous missions were assigned to ordinary evolutionary professionals outside the direct line of the military and political forces, serving as cannon fodder. It wasn't until a year later, under the leadership of many top evolved beings, deeply dissatisfied with the military and government, that the Demon Hunting Guild and various major demon hunting groups were established. Those evolved beings who had harbored illusions about the military and government at the beginning of the apocalypse left in dismay, joining the demon hunting groups and various civilian organizations. Eventually, these civilian organizations united to form a force powerful enough to counter the military and government, forcing the bureaucrats to recognize the situation and the superior social status of evolved professionals. With memories of the afterlife, it would have been sheer madness to rush in and offer to join the army and the government, hoping to contribute to saving the people from their misery. Liu Ming, observing the rescue forces outside, suddenly spotted a figure in the crowd that was both familiar and unfamiliar. If I were to say familiar, it would be that I hadn't had any contact with her in nearly 10 years. But if I were to say unfamiliar, she had been my roommate, living under the same roof just a few days ago. Follow me, follow me. Observer, follow me. Find the high ground. A tall woman, clad in a body armor and blast-proof suit that barely concealed her graceful figure, shouted as she charged towards a residential building, clutching a heavy sniper rifle. Behind her followed a tall man, similarly clad, but instead of a sniper rifle, he carried an optical telescope and a submachine gun, following the woman as they raced towards the rooftop. Chu Yesheng. Liu Ming spoke slowly. I didn't expect to meet him here again. The legendary saint, renowned in later generations of Wuling, the heavy sniper master, Yaran Huake, Chu Yesheng. P.S. I'm having a splitting headache, but I managed to finish this chapter. This update is for my brothers Gao Jian 45 and Wang Wo Yian. Thanks to my brothers, the invincible Ji Wang, Zimeng Xixiang DDR, and Ghost Feng Dao, for their generous donations. Since it's been quiet for a day, I won't bother asking for votes. Chapter 67 Ancient Fist Xingai, Dao Gui Yaolong, Part 1. Two heavily armed figures charged like ferocious beasts towards the rooftop of an 8 or 9 story residential building, their pace unstoppable. No monster could stop or even pause. The tall woman in the lead, in particular, used her sniper rifle like a spear and a club. Every time a monster emerged from the corridors or hidden corners, she stabbed and stabbed it, leaving it bruised and battered, rendering it powerless. Then, with a single kick, the woman kicked open the locked iron door on the rooftop. A dark figure suddenly lunged from the doorway. The woman was visibly stunned by the sudden attack, but the man behind her instantly stepped forward, his hands flexing and repelling the ferocious figure. With Liu Ming's astonishing vision, enhanced by his numerous evolutions, he could clearly see the man standing side by side, his palms rising and pressing in an instant, to push back the attacker. He instantly recognized the opening move, the Wuji, from the three-body posture of Xingaiquan. He hadn't expected to encounter someone who had mastered the ancient martial arts to such an extreme. With significant increases in individual strength and physical fitness, later ancient martial arts also experienced a surge of vitality in this new era. Demon hunters practicing various ancient martial arts became a trend, and even a decade later, their popularity remained undiminished. Unfortunately, Liu Ming's talent not only with swords and blades was poor, but his overall martial arts talent was also extremely poor. He spent a year or so studying the ancient Xingaiquan, encompassing the 3-body style, 5-element fist, and 12 forms fist, popular in the later Wuling safe zone, but his mastery was only half-baked. In actual combat, it was no match for a single sword or blade. Therefore, to enhance his close combat and self-defense abilities, he focused on Chinese Sanda and Western combat techniques. It's not that these martial arts were superior to ancient martial arts, but simply that they focused solely on form, lacking much of the true spirit and meaning. Therefore, while difficult to master, they were easier to learn. But while he had never eaten pork, he had certainly seen pigs run. While he hadn't grasped the spirit and mastered any of the various later ancient martial arts, he had nonetheless developed a keen eye. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known from a single glance at the opening stance that the man was using the 3-body stance Zhuanggang of ancient Xingaiquan. If memory serves, the later Wuling foremost martial artist was best known for his mastery of ancient Xingaiquan. He cultivated the 3-body true meaning, the 5-element fist meaning, and the 12 true forms of Xingaiquan to perfection, sparking a widespread craze for the practice of ancient Xingaiquan in Wuling. Legend has it that, before joining the army, the man had studied under the renowned ancient Xingaiquan master Han Shanshao of Chengjian City, the capital of Shunan province. After enlisting, he continued to train with a master of the Xingaiquan practical school within the army, learning the modern military modified Xingaiquan. His mastery of this martial art was truly profound. Judging from his stance, the man before him had likely learned a little from that incredibly gifted man. Though only a little, he was still far superior to the 4-legged beast he had painstakingly cultivated. Meanwhile, the two men on the rooftop, startled by the sudden attack, finally saw the attacker's true form. A nearly 2-meter tall humanoid creature, repelled, crouched on the ground like a predator, its limbs low to the ground, its eyes glaring fiercely at the two. The flesh on its face was ripped apart as if by fangs, and a dark red hole on one side revealed a mouthful of piercing white teeth. Its entire face was eroded, its hands warped and deformed like claws, their nails sharp and black. Its skin had also turned black, as if its stratum corneum had become remarkably defensive. A swift mutant, the tall man who had fought off the monster said, his eyes narrowed and his gaze coldly fixed on the creature. This was one of the many monsters that had emerged from the unprecedented catastrophe which the capital had just reported to the local governments and militaries. Compared to the ordinary cannibal corpses, which were only marginally stronger than ordinary humans, after undergoing only one mutation, this secondary mutation, with its combined offensive and defensive capabilities, was beyond the capabilities of ordinary humans. Having just thrown himself forward to repel the monster, his arms were now numb and aching, with blood-red claw marks visible on his forearms. But the thought of the person standing behind him forced him to maintain his stance, no matter how uncomfortable it was. With this person around, even a triple mutant, let alone a secondary one, would be no problem. As expected, before he could exert any force, a loud bang of a sniper bullet rang out from behind his ear, instantly shattering half of the monster's body. But the creature, dragging its half body, charged forward with undiminished ferocity. The tall man secretly rejoiced. Perfect timing. In your current state, I might have been a little intimidated by you, with only a 70% chance of victory. But now, aren't you just a dish for me to show off in front of that person? He shifted his form, swinging his hips, and taking a step forward. His stance shifted from the opening Wuji stance to the four symbols stance. This was the final stance of the three body stances, emphasizing the lower body and power. At the same time, he pressed his left hand's 5 fingers together and unleashed a single-handed chopping punch from the 5-element fist, instantly striking the monster's neck. Half of the creature's bloodied body instantly went limp. He then clenched his right hand and delivered a powerful punch. Boom. The air formed a white wave around the tip of his fist, and ripples of air rippled outward around it, like a cannonball being fired. This was the renowned cannon fist from Zingaiquan, renowned for its ferocious attack within the Pai, Zuan, Beng, Pao, and Hang 5-element fist. This cannon fist directly shattered half of the monster's head. After losing half its body, the monster lost half its head. Though its strength had plummeted again, its ferocity remained undiminished. It pounced directly upon the man. The man's stance shifted again, from the 4 symbols to the second 2 symbol stance. In 2 steps, he evaded the monster and leaped behind it. He clenched his right fist slightly, his fingertips closing into a drill shape. He struck the other half of the monster's head with a powerful punch, sending the headless creature crashing to the ground, a half-headless corpse. Liu Ming, perched on another tall building, witnessed the entire scene and couldn't help but sigh. The power of ancient martial arts is truly extraordinary. His keen eyes could tell that the tall man's physical fitness was comparable to that of a beginner F-class evolver, yet his boxing skills had managed to completely defeat this swift mutant, which had clearly evolved to the late F-class stage, in just a few strikes. While the mutant was severely injured, the cannibal's robust vitality meant it could still unleash an attack power comparable to that of an early F-class mutant. I wonder if I'll ever have the chance to master an ancient martial art. Although he knew from his later experiences that he wasn't cut out for martial arts, learning the stances was easy, but the true spirit and essence of the techniques remained completely unknown to him. But with his own body's comprehensive enhancements fueled by the dragon veins, perhaps he could also grasp the true meaning and spirit of ancient martial arts. He never misses any opportunity to improve his strength, let alone this miraculous ancient martial art that maximizes every ounce of his power. It's no exaggeration to say that, if he had this man's mastery of ancient Zingaiquan, his unarmed melee combat prowess would skyrocket by at least 30% to 40%. PS. After taking 2 fever-reducing pills and a night's rest, I'm back to full health. Here's the first update. Thanks to my 4 beloved friends, Shenjin Ming, Ji Wang, Ice Angel Archer, and Potian, for their concern. I also want to thank my fellow friends, Insomniac Nightcat Garfield, Unafraid of Powerful Beauty, Natural Painter, Fallen Leaves Follow the Wind 126, Bookfriend 201708231523471990, Shenjin Ming. And Bookfriend 2017010123429372, for their donations. Take note of them now, and I'll update next week. My collection has surpassed 3,000, but Dragon Breeder's performance is even worse than when it had 2,000. I'm ready to cry, but my heart is cold. Liu Ming, whose martial arts talent is as poor as his Dragon Keeper grades, is going to learn martial arts. It's been 2 days since I recommended him, and his ranking has plummeted. Please vote, reward, and support me, otherwise Feng Shui will just let Liu Ming practice Takai. Chapter 68 Ancient Zingaiquan, Dao Gui Yaolong, Part 2. After the 2 men on the rooftop dispatched the mutants, they immediately found a crenellation in the wall, set up their sniper rifles, and began providing remote support to the liquidation forces below. Chang Le, the tall woman called out. The tall man, Chang Le, immediately donned a black square-shaped telescope and began observing the situation below. Target at 11 o'clock, distance 850 meters, wind speed 10 meters. Bang! A sudden, resounding explosion echoed, and flames streamed from the sniper's muzzle. Liu Ming followed the direction of the flames, and saw the head of a large coward demon leading the coward demons, and the siege of the convoy within the residential complex instantly shattered. Its still moving, headless corpse collapsed helplessly to the ground behind a group of his men. Hit the target. Bang, bang, bang. Steady powerful gunshots echoed from the rooftop, each one accompanied by the fall of a powerful monster posing a formidable threat to the liquidation forces. A monster with fleshy wings, besieging the convoy, finally spotted the source of the gunfire after its men fell one after another. Its eyes, filled with hatred, fixed on the rooftop of a residential building. We've been spotted. Move. Quick. Chu Yeshan muttered as he sheathed his sniper rifle, catching sight of the monster's murderous gaze through his scope. The 2 immediately began to evacuate the rooftop. By then, the fleshy winged monster had spread its wings and soared towards the residential building. Abyssal Winged Demon. This ugly flying monster was one of the most common flying units among the abyssal demons, a low-level, primary combat unit alongside the Hellfall demons and flesh-winged demons. As the winged demon began to lift off, a dazzling blade of light slashed from the center of the convoy. Like a snow-white dragon coiling around the Bhagavad Gita diagram, it swooped down on the winged demon. The sharp blade energy was so intense that even those above the early D level dared not resist, and they quickly flapped their wings to evade. Sword Trigram's Wandering Dragon. The sudden burst of blade energy caused Liu Ming, who had been observing the situation, to gasp. Sword Trigram's Wandering Dragon was one of the renowned skills of another legendary 7th rank saint, renowned in the military and political circles of later generations. This prodigy, equally gifted in ancient martial arts, created a unique sword technique by blending the Bagua knife and the Wudang Wandering Dragon knife. As expected, Wandering Dragon Knife Saint, one of the 2 Wuling sword saints who would inevitably appear on the front lines alongside Kao Shai and Lang during major battles, slowly emerged from an armored, bomb-proof vehicle. The sword saint who had wounded the winged demon with a single strike from mid-air was a plain-looking middle-aged man with a shock of silver hair and 3D wrinkles on his forehead, appearing much older than he would have been 10 years later. Unlike Kao Shai and Long, who had achieved the rank of lieutenant colonel in peacetime, Wandering Dragon Knife Saint remained a senior officer in the Municipal Criminal Police Brigade until the day of the apocalypse, holding no prominent position beyond his part-time role as a combat instructor. What's the rush? Fight me. His eyes, which had been narrowed until recently, brightened the moment he stepped out of the car. He spoke slowly, gazing at the winged demon, whose flesh wings were bruised by the sword's blast and dripping with blood. The winged demon seemed unwilling to fight, flapping its wings and flying towards the retreating Chu Yeshan and his companions. The middle-aged sword saint swung his sword twice, and 2 8-trigrams dragons flew from the blade, blocking the winged demon's upward flight path, forcing it to fly low to avoid the sword's blast. Then, as if his feet were equipped with powerful springs, the sword saint, using the eaves of a billboard, soared dozens of meters into the air, instantly closing the distance between him and the winged demon. The winged demon flapped its wings and charged towards the sword saint, but before it could reach him, a close-range blow tore half of its flesh wing apart. It let out a painful cry and glared at the sword saint with deep resentment. However, the monster, recognizing the vast disparity in strength between itself and the one before it, abandoned its attack and, instead, flapped half of its flesh wing and flew towards the convoy below. Monster, how dare you? The sword saint roared, leaping forward. A multi-meter long sword energy slashed through the air at the winged demon. but the winged demon flapped half a fleshy wing rapidly in midair, dodging the blow with a strange flight pattern. The sword energy slammed into the horde of monsters below, like a bomb dropping among them. With a resounding explosion, blood, flesh, and severed limbs flew through the air. Watching the tragic deaths of so many of his men, the winged demon let out a piercing cry. With another flap of its wings, it appeared on the roof of a riot police vehicle, a heavy machine gun mounted on its flaming rampage. Its wings enveloped the vehicle like a dark cloud, obscuring the entire vehicle. The machine gunner and ammunition refueler on the roof felt a dizzying sensation as they were snatched away by the winged demon's massive, metallic, and cold claws, dissolving into a bloody rain in midair. Seeing the monster flee from his own men and kill, the sword saint's eyes flashed with murderous intent. With a single leap, like a ferocious humanoid beast, he leaped nearly 10 meters toward the winged demon. But the winged demon let out a sharp triumphant cry, before flapping its wings, and soaring off into the distance. Hundreds of meters separated the two, and even the sharpest blade energy couldn't reach such a distance to strike its target. Just as the sword saint, his face livid, could only watch helplessly as the killer flew away, another tongue of fire erupted from the roof of a civilian house, and a bullet, as thick as a thumb, and as long as a palm, pierced the air. The winged demon, sensing danger, barely had time to turn before the sniper's bullet shattered the other half of its fleshy wing. With 2 wings lost, the winged demon let out a shrill cry of terror, and plummeted helplessly from the sky. The sudden unexpected turn of events delighted the sword saint, and in a few leaps he dashed nearly 100 meters. Then, another burst of wielding dragon-like blade energy erupted from his blade, ripping the falling winged demon into a bloody hail. As expected of the wandering dragon sword saint Nikang-sang, Liu Ming sighed softly as he watched the winged demon, like a burst of fireworks, being chopped into a hail of blood and flesh. The 16 peaks, rarely seen by ordinary people in later generations, suddenly appeared one after another today. Although they were only prototypes of the 16 peaks, if they were to face him and his 2 dragon pets one-on-one, they would definitely be annihilated. But just by looking at Chu Yeshan's spearmanship and Nikang-sang's swordsmanship, one could already see the 16 peaks' dominance in the future. Imagine if it weren't for the bullet that shattered the winged demon's flesh wings, even he would have been helpless to watch the winged demon fly away. It seems that the last dragon pet spot must be a flying creature, otherwise aerial combat would be extremely difficult before it has acquired true flight capabilities. After killing the winged demon, Nikang-sang suddenly turned, looked up at Liu Ming and smiled slightly, obviously noticing Liu Ming, who had been watching the show from the sidelines. Liu Ming reached out and touched his nose, also smiling, inwardly amazed at the old man's astonishing perception. The winged demon, the strongest and leading monster in the community, had been chopped into a bloody rain, and the remaining monsters were quickly wiped out. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed from the stairwell. "Hello, sir. Our commander would like to see you. I wonder if you could move over." After the battle, several armed personnel rushed to Liu Ming's floor and addressed him in a business-like manner. Finally, the moment Nikang-sang looked at him, he had a premonition that he would come again. "No, not interested." Resolutely determined not to contact the military and political parties for the time being, Liu Ming flatly refused and left with Liu Huchun. Bang! Liu Ming closed the door behind him. Now that the troops had moved in, there was no need for him and Liu Huchun to continue guarding. In the stairwell, a young armed police officer spat a mouthful of thick phlegm and cursed. "What kind of person is this? We worked so hard to save people, and you're still putting on airs. That's right, you really think you're so important. Captain Lee, isn't that infuriating?" Another armed police officer beside him also looked unhappy. "What are you so angry about? Your temper is really getting worse with the apocalypse. This one armed man must be quite the expert. Otherwise, what kind of person is Captain Lee?" Lieutenant Colonel Ko and all the government and military leaders treat him with respect. If he weren't an expert, would he have specifically sent us to fetch help? Look at how serious he looks. If he wasn't stationed at the convoy to guard against any monster attacks, he'd probably come himself. The older armed police officer known as Captain Lee, with significantly more social experience than the other two, analyzed without turning back as he walked downstairs. He was still trying to figure out how to respond to Captain Nee, who was known for his straightforward and fiery temperament, or else he'd be scolded again for not being able to fetch help. PS. The second update is here, courtesy of the donations from my brothers, Against the Environment and Stupid Likes to Read. Thanks to the Invincible G Wang, CCCC 1234, and Ajjun Mark Zero for their donations. It seems that the recommendation is really dead, but I'm still very grateful to the brothers who voted for Dragon Breeder in the past 2 days. Fortunately, there are still these brothers who voted for support silently, otherwise it would really be completely dead. Alas. As a new author and new book, it is difficult to attract new readers after the website recommends it. As usual, I ask for recommendations, rewards, and support. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Must Go, Sword Saint Deal. Let's bury them. It's time to leave, Liu Ming said, watching Chu Huxin, who had gradually regained her composure. Okay, boss, I'll pack my luggage. Chu Huxin knelt on the ground, kowtowed one last time to her parents' remains, and stood up. She wiped her tears, and took a deep breath, as if saying goodbye to her family. Finally, the group wrapped the remains in several blankets, and carried them downstairs for burial. As they reached the first floor, a magic seal warrior who had been guarding the convoy rushed in. Boss, those troops are trying to impound our car, and forbid us from leaving the complex, the subordinate, whom Liu Ming remembered as Wan Cheng, said angrily. Don't worry, bury the body first. Wan Cheng will take me, Liu Ming said calmly to the anxious crowd behind him. After all, the disaster had only been a few days, and the authority of the violent police was still deeply rooted in people's minds. Compared to a reckless person like Liu Ming, who was accustomed to disregarding laws and regulations in later generations, the situation of having their car impounded by armed men was still somewhat unsettling. After ordering everyone to find a place to bury the deceased, Liu Ming led Wang Cheng to the parking lot. Are you the leader? A man in a police uniform asked rudely, seeing Wang Cheng, who had left claiming to be looking for someone, return with a man with a severed arm. He's the one who wants to impound your car? Liu Ming didn't answer, simply asking Wang Cheng calmly, what's wrong with impounding your car? Are you asking if you're the leader? The policeman grew irritated by the man's apparent disregard. That's him, boss, Wang Cheng replied, also ignoring the policeman. Boss, this guy in blue is so arrogant. Isn't he serving the people? Am I driving without a license? Impounding my car? And are you a police officer or a traffic officer? Do your job descriptions match your current behavior? Fatikin had also scrambled out of the driver's seat, pouting his paunch, and gazing disdainfully at the officer questioning Liu Ming. As a wealthy tycoon in peacetime, he didn't take this small-time policeman, who could easily intimidate ordinary people, seriously. The police officer questioning him blushed under the fat man's barrage of questions. He wanted to curse but couldn't. However, the armed police and police officers beside him didn't buy his rhetoric. I said I'd confiscate your car, so I'll confiscate your car. Why are you talking so much nonsense? You're not getting out of your car, are you? Zyogan? Slash his tires, a police officer instructed the young officer who had just been questioning him, looking at the 2 dump trucks still with people inside. Slash the tires, if you're brave enough. Lin Bing, a wealthy second generation, hopped out of the driver's seat of another dump truck and said coldly, "Hey, I'll show you, if you have the guts." The young police officer, with a forced smile, approached the 2 dump trucks with a tire puncture device. Before he could even place the device under the tires, a long black tail reached out and swept it away. Fuck, monster. The armed police and police officers were startled by Sumi's sudden appearance and the fact that Sumi had swept away the tire puncture device. They drew their rifles and prepared to shoot Sumi. Bang, bang, bang. A series of attacks erupted. Liu Ming saw several men, guns drawn, leaping forward and launching a barrage of kicks. Everyone's weapons flew out, and they fell backward. One armed police officer, under attack, pulled the trigger, his assault rifle misfiring, sending a barrage of gunfire piercing the air. What's going on? Hasn't the neighborhood been cleared? Why are you shooting over there? Go check it out. The rescue team stationed near the vehicle heard the gunfire and a commotion ensued. Be careful of accidental discharges. You might get yourself killed, Liu Ming said grimly as he collected the weapons that had flown out of everyone's hands. You actually shot at Sumi. If it weren't for the two tough guys following you, I'd be utterly devastated. Liu Ming had just had his men load their guns onto the dump truck when a large group of armed men surrounded them. Old Yang, are you okay? Dare to attack a police officer? Cuff them all. The crowd rushed over, their faces filled with shock and anger as they watched their colleagues groan on the ground. Drawing weapons and handcuffs, they approached Liu Ming and the others. Liu Ming glared at the crowd coldly, and just as he was about to strike, a familiar, watery face appeared before him, pushing past the police and armed police surrounding the group. Wherever this beautiful woman passed, all the police automatically made way. Why are you here? A pleasant voice tinged with curiosity and confusion. Despite the woman's surprise, Liu Ming remained calm, having seen her before. What's going on? Seeing Liu Ming ignore her, the woman turned to look at her fallen men. She could tell they had only sustained minor injuries, nothing serious beyond the pain. Captain Chu, you know there's a safety lockdown order from above. I saw these people staying in the car, and it looked like they were about to leave. So I sent old Yang to bring the men over to impound it, replied the square-faced middle-aged officer who had just announced the handcuffing of everyone. He answered with a sense of helplessness. But in just a few days, the trainee detective assigned to his unit, fresh out of the police academy, had become his immediate superior. Who hit him? Chu Yeshan asked Liu Ming. After all, she knew him only among the group. Me. Why? Liu Ming sneered and ignored her. I'm afraid your car won't be able to leave. Our superiors have ordered that every area we rescue must be immediately cordoned off. Survivors are only allowed in, not out. Chu Yesheng, clearly good-tempered, explained without getting angry. What if I say I absolutely must leave? Liu Ming glared at her coldly, his eyes narrowed. Monsters are rampant outside. If you want to get out, you'll need to see if you have the guts to do it. Chu Yeshen stood in front of Liu Ming with a determined face. Although she was surprised that this man, who had always been polite and gentle in his conversation with her, had transformed into a cold and stubborn person in just a few days, she couldn't let him off. Get out of the way before my companions get back. I don't want to fight you, as we've known each other, Liu Ming said bluntly. These people's hot wire weapons were quite intimidating. If I were hit in plain clothing, I'd be seriously injured. But I was wearing silver scale light armor with an energy shield. Whether the bullets could penetrate the shield was questionable, assuming they could hit me. Besides, with Jizeli Rang as a human shield, as long as I could block the wandering dragon sword Saint Sumi's close range attack on the woman, relying on their hot wire firepower against me, I had a 70% to 80% chance of defeating them. Liu Ming, don't be ungrateful. Chu Yeshen finally lost his temper at this man's increasingly arrogant and mysterious confidence. So you won't give in? Liu Ming's eyes grew colder, determined to teach this group a lesson. Ha ha ha, everyone calm down. Peace is the most important thing. Peace is the most important thing. Speak calmly. A hearty laugh echoed from outside the crowd. As the two sides reached a critical juncture, the wandering dragon sword saint, who had previously slashed the winged demon, leaped between the clashing Liu Ming and Chu Yeshen. Captain Li and the others, who had just come to see Liu Ming, were speechless after him, panting. Please be kind, speak calmly, and be kind, they asked. How did you just scold us? Liu Ming's eyes suddenly changed as he looked at Ni Kangsong, who had appeared before him. He's indeed a key practitioner. The moment Ni Kangsong turned his head, he had suspected that this fellow was also a key practitioner who had begun cultivating ki. If he weren't a key practitioner who had opened up the sixth dimension of perception, his perception would never be so sharp. He thought he was always one step ahead, but the harsh reality told him that this old man, who also had faint fluctuations of ki within him, was likely a key practitioner, just as strong as him. Young man, how about a deal with me? I can make it, so you can take your people away. Don't look at me like that. This deal is a win-win for both of us. Old Ni will never take advantage of you, Ni Kang-sang said, smiling at Liu Ming. P.S. Thanks to Yuha, Yirenra Renlian, Shuiao 201803301134399912, and Fanny for their tips. Sumi, whose strength is no longer as strong as the mainstream team, is about to explode. Please vote, tip, and support me. Chapter 70, Speed Dragon's Secret Heart, Evolution Tail Cat. Ni Kang-sang's words also piqued Liu Ming's curiosity. If it were truly a win-win situation, he wouldn't refuse, but if it was a forced deal, then this old man might have picked the wrong person. What deal? Liu Ming asked, a subtle glint of venom in his eyes. The old man smiled at Liu Ming, then turned and waved to the armed police special forces surrounding the crowd. He said casually, okay, get out of the way. Take these people lying on the ground, and apply some bruise medicine. Little brother, follow me. He then waved his back to Liu Ming, and led the way out of the separated crowd. Chu Yeshan frowned at Ni Kang-sang's words, but remained silent. As long as the people didn't leave the complex, she could turn a blind eye. Just because I agree to this, I'm going from a young man to a little brother? Liu Ming grumbled inwardly, but followed him anyway. You guys stay here, and wait for me. With the thief Ran lurking underground, Liu Ming wasn't worried about their safety. But at that moment, Sumi, who was standing beside the car, suddenly came over, arched her head towards Liu Ming, and meowed twice. Do you want me to go with you? Meow. It was a cry that mixed worry and reassurance. Don't worry about me, Sumi. I'll summon you if there's any danger. Meow. Sumi's meows grew increasingly dissatisfied and high-pitched. Okay, then you come with me, Liu Ming said with a look of resignation. Seeing Liu Ming finally put an end to this conversation that had left everyone confused, Ni Kang-sang chuckled and continued walking. Little brother, if I'm not mistaken, you're a Yuan Qi practitioner, right? Ni Kang-sang asked Liu Ming as they walked. Aren't you the same? Why do you even need to ask? Liu Ming replied casually. Hahaha, I'm only a novice, but little brother, you've probably already broken through that chasm and truly reached the realm of the master, Ni Kang-sang exclaimed, unconcealing his admiration. Your deal is also related to Yuan Qi cultivation? Liu Ming suddenly realized. Logically, this was the first time he and the sword master had met in both their past and present lives, and since neither knew the other, how could he be so sure of mutually beneficial deal? It turned out he was interested in the method he had used to break the first divine gene chain and reach the primordial energy transition stage. He feared his wish would be dashed. His meager primordial energy cultivation talent had only been able to achieve such a rapid breakthrough thanks to the aid of the primordial stones, and his remaining primordial stones had been transformed into magic crystals for the gargoyles. When Ni Kang-sang stopped, the group approached his vehicle, an armored riot control vehicle. Come in and see what I've collected along the way. Let's be frank, little brother. If you can teach me how to break the chains, you can choose any of these items. Stepping into the spacious riot control vehicle, Liu Ming's eyes flickered with surprise at what he saw. The fleshy wings of a fallen demon from hell, the horns of an intermediate level horned demon, the two heads of a two-headed hellhound, the heart of a flame demon. Little brother, my collection is quite impressive, isn't it? Since you're also a key practitioner, you've probably encountered the altar before. These are the most valuable offerings I've collected along the way. Ni Kang-sang laughed heartily, clearly pleased with the surprise in Liu Ming's eyes. Very good, but... Liu Ming was about to say, but you're probably going to be disappointed, when Sumi, who had followed him into the car, suddenly bit his sleeve. An overwhelming sense of longing washed over him. Master, I want that. Liu Ming looked in Sumi's direction and saw a dark purple, wriggling heart before him. It seemed alive, beating gently within a box. With each beat, a shadowy mist emanated, only to be absorbed back into the heart in an instant, repeating itself over and over again. Sumi, do you want it? Liu Ming asked telepathically. Yes, I think it can help me. Liu Ming could clearly hear the voice within him trembling slightly. Sumi's excitement. Liu Ming was no stranger to this scene. 9 years of professional animal taming had taught him that whenever a pet displayed similar emotions, it usually signaled the arrival of a special item that would aid its evolution. But what I can offer might not be much help in breaking your chains. Are you still interested? Liu Ming said, changing the subject. As long as it helps, you can choose any of these C rank or lower offerings. Ni Kang-sang didn't seem disappointed, smiling as he gestured towards the pile of D rank offerings, including the fallen demon's flesh wings and the horned demon's devil horns. To Liu Ming's slight disappointment, the offerings didn't include the dark purple Hatsumi he desired. But I'm not short of D rank offerings. I want C rank, Liu Ming said bluntly. Brother, I only have 3 C rank offerings, and obtaining each one was a bloody and tragic story, with countless lives lost. Your information, which might only be helpful to me, might not be worth its weight in gold. Ni Kang-sang's smile suddenly froze at this. I'll add another original skill closely related to primordial energy in exchange. Liu Ming was calm and composed, skeptical that Ni Kang-sang wouldn't be tempted. Original skill? Can I see it? Ni Kang-sang asked curiously. Liu Ming produced a thin volume. It resembled neither paper nor gold, but it was a carrier of the altar's divine grace, specifically used to record original skills. The 6 Illusions Absolute Shadow Blade was the name of this original skill, one of the 6 divine graces granted by the previous 4-color altar sacrifice. Because the 6 Illusions Absolute Shadow Blade's effects only affected blade energy, learning it was useless for someone like him who knew nothing about blade energy, so he simply kept it. Its sole function was to transform a single blade energy into multiple, ranging from 1 to 6, depending on the depth of one's comprehension of this original skill. The number of blade energy illusions could range from 10% to 30% of the original blade energy itself. If Ni Kang-sang mastered this original skill, the power of his blade trigram Wandering Dragon would increase by at least 20% to 30%. As expected, Ni Kang-sang, who also possessed clairvoyance, looked at Liu Ming with delight upon seeing the effects of his original technique. He said, young brother, you're truly a down-to-earth person. Okay, since I've broken the chains, you can choose any of these 3 C rank offerings. Liu Ming nodded without hesitation. My method of breaking the chains comes from the power of the primordial stone. The primordial stone is also a form of divine grace from the altar, containing pure primordial energy. Absorbing it can help break through Platican. Young brother, you're truly straightforward. Choose. Ni Kang-sang laughed heartily at this. With a wave of his hand, he let Liu Ming choose his offering, while he focused on studying his newly acquired original technique. Liu Ming activated his clairvoyance to examine the strange heart. It was the heart of a phantom speed dragon, a creature from the shadow realm, and a dark attributed one at that. The combined shadow and darkness attributes gave it the abilities of a darling of the night. What monster did this heart come from? Liu Ming asked casually, but a great deal of turmoil welled up within him. The phantom speed dragon, a C rank, semi-elemental flesh dragon from the shadow realm, measures 2 to 3 meters long and stands as tall as a human. Its incredible speed makes it one of the fastest first-tier creatures, reaching a top speed of Mach 0.8 when using its innate abilities, nearly 1000 km per hour. Mach 0.8 is nearing the limit of what a civilian aircraft can achieve. It's hard to believe how such a ghostly creature managed to meet its end at Ni Kang-sang's hands. You're talking about this? It's from a swift monster. It's definitely one of the most formidable monsters I've encountered these days. Even us evolved beings struggled to keep up with its speed. It mistook my convoy for a prey and kept lingering nearby. Then, while feeding, it let its guard down and was shot by Yisheng, who was lurking nearby. Its hind legs were shattered, and I killed it. Otherwise, no one would have been able to defeat it. Ni Kang-sang clearly remembered the phantom speed dragon's speed vividly. The deal's over. I'm leaving now. Remember to tell your men to get out of the way, or I'll be brutal. Liu Ming said rudely, picking up the wooden box containing the dark attributed Velociraptor heart, and turned away from the riot van. Don't worry, little brother. I, Old Ni, always stick to my word. If you weren't so determined to leave, I'd really want you to stay. With your potential, it's a shame you're hanging around with ordinary survivors instead of working for the government or the military. You have to know that when it comes to foundation and hardware, we are second to none. Ni Kangsong shifted gears, becoming a persuasive speaker. Okay, that's enough. Goodbye. Liu Ming interrupted Ni Kangsong, who was about to leave without looking back. This guy, who had been in the police force for over 20 years, would still be a mere ordinary officer if it weren't for the apocalypse, was still helping the government and the military persuade him. Back on the dump truck, Liu Ming pushed the two fist-sized hearts from the wooden box directly in front of the already impatient Sumi. Sumi leaned over to the hearts and swallowed them in a few gulps. The shadowy mist that had emanated from the beating dark purple heart suddenly emerged from Sumi's body, completely obscuring it. A pitch black mist appeared on the dump truck's bed, pulsing like a heartbeat, expanding and contracting. When Chu Huxin and her group returned from burying the deceased, Sumi was still trapped in the mist. Meow. Roar. Nearly 20 minutes passed before a sound like a combination of a cat's meow and a beast's roar emanated from the mist. With the roar, the mist suddenly shrank inward, and when it completely vanished, a dark purple beast appeared before everyone. With Liu Ming's perceptive powers, he could clearly discern a species name completely different from the one Sumi had previously identified. Purple shadow flametail cat, dragon species, one tail, leader. PS. This update is for Yuha. Thank you Yuha for your support and attention. Thank you to the men's tribe, Gentleman Lin, and Yuha for your support. Sumi is going to explode, why don't the 3000 brothers explode as well? It's Friday, please recommend, reward and support. Chapter 71, Dark Flame Breath, Shadow King. With Sumi's appearance, a wave of scorching heat, like that of a steel-making blast furnace, washed over him. Liu Ming took a quick look. Sumi had grown even more enormously. Standing upright on all fours, its massive head reached the level of his brow. Most of the fur on its torso had been replaced by amethyst-like deep purple scales. While its head remained furry, only its nose, cheeks, jaw, and forehead were covered in dark purple scales. The rest of the black hair was turning purple, while the white hair was turning from snow white to silver. It looked like a mysterious beast clad in armor carved from amethyst scales. The most remarkable thing about it was its tail. The end of its thick, long tail, encased in purple scales, erupted in a blazing, dark purple flame. The flames coiled around the end, resembling a twisted, miniature purple dragon. Even standing a few meters from its tail, one could feel the intense heat of the air, heated by the blazing tail. The first thing Sumi did upon emerging from the mist was to pounce upon Liu Ming. Her massive body, now nearly as tall as Liu Ming, nearly knocked him off his feet. The scorching heat, even with Liu Ming's numerous enhancements, caused a fine sweat to form on his head. Seeing her master appear unwell, Sumi quickly flicked her flaming tail. The dragon flames that had curled 40 to 50 centimeters from the tip of her tail suddenly receded, becoming a smaller flame less than 6 centimeters long. Its color changed from a deep purple to a pale violet. The people around her, whose faces had flushed red, as if they were being steamed in a steamer, finally felt a sense of relief. Liu Ming, using his clairvoyance, observed that Sumi's various innate abilities and specialties had undergone a dramatic transformation. Purple shadow flame-tailed cat, dragon seed, one-tailed, leader, power level, first stage D rank, peak, potential, third stage SSS rank abilities, phantom claw tier, shadow glimmer, dark flame breath, purple flame dragon tail talents, command, shadow king, shadow transformation, phantom speed specialties, leadership, shadow leap agility, shadow burst description. Tailed cats are an incredibly mysterious branch of the cat family. Their ancestor is known as the nine-life demon cat, also known as the nine-tailed cat. The descendants of the nine-tailed cat are known as the tailed cat clan. Tailed cats are born with one tail. With practice and years of growth, each tail they grow completes a metamorphosis into a butterfly-like evolution. Legend has it that with each additional tail, they can be reborn once more. There are many different types of tailed cats, and Purple Shadow Flame is one of them, bearing the superior bloodline of the nine-tailed cat ancestor. They are both assassins lurking in the shadows and majestic monarchs hidden within them. Shadows and darkness imbue them with the abilities of the night's darlings. Merging into shadows and darkness is as easy for them as eating and drinking. Sumi. Liu Ming's eyes widened upon hearing the description of Sumi's abilities and race, cradling Sumi's large head in shock. A tailed cat. It's actually a tailed cat. If Fei Yi was the culprit behind the cholera outbreak in Tingshan County, then another beast was the instigator of the chaos that rocked Lancheng County under Wu Ling's jurisdiction. The Blue Frost Star-tailed cat. This was the name of that beast. It wasn't until 4 years after the Doomsday Calendar that the mysterious tailed cat gradually vanished from human sight. However, there were no reports of its complete demise. If it wasn't banished, it might have simply migrated to another region. However, compared to Sumi, the tailed cat possessed 4 tails, and by the 4th year of the Doomsday Calendar, its power level had reached a high 4th grade A level. Lancheng's evolvers attempted to mobilize all their resources to annihilate it, even including Lancheng's only peak 16 cultivator. However, it was rumored that after each slaying, it would mysteriously reappear, seemingly immortal and incapable of complete destruction. Furthermore, it would become even more brutal and ruthless, attacking and destroying human safe zones, seeking vengeance against humanity with all its might. In the 4 years before and after its appearance, tens of thousands of people in Lancheng County died directly or indirectly at its hands. But I haven't heard that the tailed cat's tail can emit fire. Liu Ming's eyes flickered with doubt. Then it can only be related to her dragon bloodline. Sumi's hidden ability has completely disappeared, while Shadow Strike has been replaced by Shadow Shimmer. Her breath has also evolved into Dark Flame Breath. Just the name suggests it's much more powerful than her previous breath, which only emitted a scorching stream. It also gains the ability of Purple Flame Dragon Tail. Judging by the name, it seems to be related to Sumi's Flaming Tail. Of her talents, only leadership remains unchanged. Camouflage is gone, likely replaced by shadow transformation, while speed has become phantom speed, and she has also gained the talent of Shadow King. The only special skill that remains unchanged is leadership. Agility and burst have both evolved and upgraded, becoming Shadow Leap Agility and Shadow Shot Burst, respectively, while height has also disappeared. Sumi, try your shadow transformation. Liu Ming decided to see if Sumi's shadow transformation could replace camouflage. Meow. With a cat's meow, Sumi's figure seemed to be obscured by a thick, dark purple mist, her entire body distorted like a shadow within the fog. A moment later, the dense fog dissipated, revealing a delicate little cat, roughly the size of a typical mid-sized cat, its black and white fur covered in purple crystals. Its tail, adorably tipped with a purple flame the size of a fingernail, was tipped with a shrunken flame. It looked like Sumi, scaled down over 10 times. With a light leap, it leaped directly into Liu Ming's arms. Okay, let's go to the next rescue point. Liu Ming patted Sumi's head, feeling cheerful. But his good mood was shattered when the convoy arrived at the entrance to the residential complex. Besides the toll booth at the security booth, several tire shredding devices had been erected as a roadblock. Armed police and special forces officers stood guard behind the barriers, their guns pointed at Liu Ming and the others. Fatikin, driving ahead, honked his horn furiously, and a dump truck blared its horn. Bang. Stop. No one is allowed out. Anyone attempting to break through will be shot on the spot. A determined special forces officer shouted, firing an airburst round into the air. Fatikin, without Liu Ming's understanding, didn't dare force his way through, so he slowly stopped the car. Seeing the dump truck stopped, several armed police officers who had been kicked to the ground by Liu Ming limped over. Captain Zhang, they stole our service weapons earlier. The special police officer known as Captain Zhang, who had fired a warning shot, frowned. Not only did they attack police officers, they also stole our guns. That's adding insult to injury. It seems the apocalypse hasn't lasted a few days, and some people already disregard the law. He sneered, waved his hand, and surrounded the dump truck with his armed men. Open the door. Return the stolen guns immediately, intact. Otherwise, you'll be treated as criminals, Captain Zhang said coldly, pounding on the car door with a butt of his assault rifle. Before Liu Ming could react, Sumi saw the man who had shot her approaching, and suddenly became furious. She jumped from Liu Ming's arms, her body swelling in the wind, and upon landing, she returned to her full height form. Roar, roar. Like a mysterious tiger-like beast, Sumi emanated a dark purple mist that spread around her, and as it did so, she let out a high-pitched roar. Following the roar, the entire neighborhood was filled with the meows and roars of cats and beasts. Then, from afar, the sound of footsteps, like the frantic galloping of numerous wild beasts, reached her. On the street behind the roadblock, nimble figures, hidden in the shadows of the eaves and alleyways, crouched low and swiftly approached the neighborhood, as if something were drawing them in. Changlei, what's going on? Chu Yesheng, standing guard on the rooftop with a sniper rifle, asked, startled by the sudden noise in the distant, swarming figures approaching the neighborhood. Evolved cats. Lots of them. No, a lot. The observer following Chu Yesheng put on binoculars to take in the rapidly moving figures, their expression grim. P.S. Fengsha has a company review next Tuesday. It's about a few cents of salary increase, and I've been preparing the report for the next 2 days, so updates may be a bit erratic, but I'll definitely be updating. I hope you'll forgive me. Thanks to Gentleman Lin of the Men's Tribe, Death, CCCC 1234, Xiangwa, and Zanshan Kuangayao for their tips. I'm also grateful to Xiangwa for the recommendation red envelopes and everyone who voted for Dragon Breeder yesterday. Thank you. Are you all satisfied with Sumi's new look? If so, please recommend, tip, and support. Chapter 72 Mingdu Villa, Laokin's family. Zisheng Mingdu, a high-end villa complex where even in peacetime, even in Wuling, a 3rd or 4th tier city, prices still average over 100,000 yuan per square meter, was the target of this rescue effort. The family of Fatikin, who resided in Villa 7-6 of Zisheng Mingdu. Fatikin, whose real name was Qin Yu, was one of the executive directors of Chengmao Real Estate. Immensely wealthy was merely an abstract description of him. Billions was the true meaning. Because he was rescuing his own family, Fatikin drove with a certain gusto. He was more confident than most in the convoy about his family's safety, if for no other reason than the top-tier security staff of Zisheng Mingdu and the 3 bodyguards he hired for his villa, each earning an annual salary of 200,000 yuan. Behind the 2 dump trucks was a heavy truck, also packed with people. By this time, Liu Ming had already led his men to over a dozen rescue sites, and rescued dozens of his men's families. When Fatikin arrived at the gate of Zisheng Mingdu, his expression suddenly changed as he took in the situation, his already pale face turning even paler. Small monsters with 2 pairs of tiny wings on their backs, each with a pair of deformed hands at the end, roamed around the entrance, gathering in groups of 3 or 4 to devour the corpses on the ground. Lying alongside the human corpses were numerous other monster carcasses, revealing that these individuals had put up a fierce resistance before ultimately being slaughtered. Boss, nothing's going to happen, is it? Fatikin said mournfully, looking at Liu Ming, who sat in the passenger seat. Ever since Sumi summoned a large group of evolved cats, Liu Ming had returned to the driver's seat from the roof. With a large number of evolved beasts escorting them, the safety of the convoy was generally not a concern. Rush it. Liu Ming didn't answer, but instead looked ahead at the monsters, which had already spotted the convoy, and were charging towards them with their teeth bared. Zisheng Mingdu is located in the southern part of the city, an area where the infernal demons are rampant. These monsters are the lower level, cunning demons of the infernal demon clan. The little cunning demons that lunged forward were instantly sent flying by the dump truck's anti-collision beams. However, as F-level or near F-level creatures, the impact of the vehicles clearly wasn't likely to completely kill them. They roared and scrambled to their feet, continuing their frantic charge towards the convoy, only to be torn to pieces by the swarm of evolved cats following behind. 3 large trucks successively broke through the guardrails at the entrance of the residential complex, and rushed into Zisheng Mingdu, arriving in front of the Fatty's villa. Old Kin, you're a billionaire indeed. Even your villa is so impressive. Liu Huchuan was the first to look at Qin Yu in shock. After exiting the vehicle, once inside the complex, everyone understood why villas here commanded sky-high prices exceeding 100,000 yuan per square meter in this economically underdeveloped 3rd and 4th tier city. Each villa was not only single family, but also had its own fence separating it from the outside world. Even the lawn within the fence belonged to the owner. Some larger villas, like Fatikin's, even had swimming pools, gardens, and even small soccer fields. It's true that the lives of billionaires are beyond our imagination. Why wasn't Lin Bing's family so extravagant when we just visited them? A girl asked curiously. Lin Bing's father was also one of the survivors, a director of the same company as Fatty, but he lived in a high-rise duplex. Hahaha, haven't you heard that wealth shouldn't be displayed? Do you think every rich person lives in a villa like Old Kin? Liu Huchun, who was watching Fatty Kin with a sly grin as Lin Bing and the others stayed in the car, answered the question for him with a wink. The Gothic-style white iron gate on the villa's independent fence had been smashed open with such force that half of it was twisted and swayed against the gate railing. A male corpse in a security uniform leaned against the gate, his chest and abdomen completely disemboweled. The internal organs in his chest and abdominal cavity had vanished, leaving his intestines and flesh exposed to the air, attracting a swarm of flies and mosquitoes that feed on carrion. Seeing this, Fatty Kin's face paled even further. As everyone entered the gate, a swift figure burst out from a hidden corner behind the gate like lightning. A shadow flashed before their eyes, and it was almost poised to pounce on the dazed Fatty Kin. Liu Ming stepped forward to block Fatty Kin, his left hand instantly engulfed in molten lava. With a single swinging punch, he smashed the attacking figure's head into pieces. The splattering blood and other white matter evaporated instantly in the intense heat, leaving not a trace of blood on Liu Ming. Fatty, I don't know if your family is dead or not, but if you continue to be so careless, you're definitely going to die. After dispatching the monster with a single blow, Liu Ming turned without even glancing at him, glaring coldly at Fatty and scolding him. Got it, boss. Fatty Kin's face stiffened, his usual vigilance returning. If there was one person in the entire team he truly feared, it wasn't Liu Huchun, the search team leader, whom he outwardly respected, a mere employee at the company who, before the apocalypse, was countless levels below him, but Liu Ming, the 19-year-old with a truly iron-fisted hand. Only then did everyone see the attacker clearly. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, his frame thin and hunched. But the jet black stratum corneum, sharp claws, and the remains of human limbs and bones piled in the corner all revealed him to be an agile mutant. The boss has gotten stronger again. Everyone exclaimed in shock. He had killed the lightning-fast shadow with a single punch. This was definitely not the Liu Ming they had seen when they first met. However, the stronger Liu Ming was, the safer they would be. Reaching the white marble steps in front of the 3-story white villa behind the crescent-shaped swimming pool, Fatty Kin called out, "Anyone still alive? I'm Kin." After a long pause, there was still no response. Fatty Kin took out the villa key, which was attached to his car keys, and unlocked the door. The door slowly opened with a click. It was already dusk, and the light outside was already dim, but there was no light on inside, leaving the room shrouded in darkness. According to Zishan Mingdu's equipment, it had its own temporary generator. While temporary, it could certainly power all the villas in the complex for a week. Why weren't the lights on? A sense of foreboding welled up in Fatty Kin's heart. The men with the lighting equipment quickly switched on the lights. The sight he saw made Fatty Kin's legs falter. If Liu Huchun hadn't quickly caught him, he would have nearly fallen. Several bodies lay sprawled across the white marble floor of the villa's living room. Like the bodies of the security guards outside, their chests and abdomens had been dissected open with sharp instruments, their internal organs vanishing. Liu Huchun, take a few men to search the second floor, and Gu Yun, take a few men to search the third floor, Liu Ming ordered, his brow furrowed. The two men immediately led 4 or 5 men up the villa's spiral staircase, leaving only Liu Ming, Fatty, and Sumi. Fatty Kin staggered over to search the rooms one by one, and breathed a sigh of relief when he found none of his wife, children, or elderly relatives. But one of the bodies was that of his bodyguard, Yifeng, who boasted a provincial Sanda Championship 3rd place finisher. The sight of his body, also disemboweled, cast a pall over his heart. When Gu Yuan led his men to the 3rd floor and attempted to push open the door to the innermost room, he found it blocked, completely unable to move. As a newly transferred shield guard, his pure strength surpassed that of a warrior, though he lacked their explosive power. His thrust against the door only cracked slightly, and it seemed likely it would be completely pierced in a few more blows. At that moment, a sharp dagger suddenly pierced through the slightly open door, heading straight for his neck. Gu Yuan's face paled, and he quickly activated his magic seal. In a moment of crisis, the thick stratum corneum instantly enveloped his head and neck, sending sparks flying from the stratum corneum. Enraged by the attack, Gu Yuan's entire body was instantly enveloped in the stratum corneum, and he slammed into the door with terrifying force. With a scream and a spurt of blood, the figure who had swung the dagger and launched a tricky attack flew backwards. The room was crowded with people hiding. "Boss, I found it." Gu Yuan laughed loudly, turned around and shouted to the people downstairs. PS. Here's a first update. I hope you guys can forgive the late updates these past few days. The reason has been explained before. It will be back after Tuesday. Thanks to 99.8, Gentleman Len of the Men's Tribe, Chen Dao Dao, Chen Miang Jiu and Lu Fengson, and the Invincible King Ji for their support. I'll make a note of the extra update next week. I'm also celebrating the birth of the Dragon Breeder's first deacon, Big Baby 99.8. Today I'll update 3 times to celebrate. I also want to thank all the brothers who voted for the Dragon Breeder yesterday. Hahaha. Finally, as usual, I'm asking for votes, rewards, and support. Chapter 73 Warehouse Number 9, The Silent Parking Lot, Part 1. King Yu, still searching on the first floor, heard the shouts, his face aglow with excitement. With a speed believable for his size, he sprinted up to the second floor in a few steps, his face trembling with excitement and running. Liu Ming followed, carrying Sumi, Old Kin. As Fatty Kin entered the room, where Gu Yuan had knocked the entire door off, a beautiful middle-aged woman stood up and shouted with surprise, "Yashu, you're okay. Thank God you're okay." Fatty Kin, his face ecstatic, hugged the middle-aged woman. "Kinze, come here." The middle-aged woman shouted to a young man who was still stunned. "Boss, this is my wife, Lu Yashu, and our son, Kinze. Please take care of us from now on." Fatty Kin, pulling his wife and children over to Liu Ming, said, "What's going on?" Liu Ming asked, nodding slightly as he looked at the flying door and a sturdy man lying on the ground coughing up blood. "Boss, I was just pushing the door open when this guy attacked me with a dagger. If I hadn't reacted quickly, he wouldn't be the one lying on the ground right now," Gu Yuan replied, his face still furious. "Sir, I'm so sorry. Zhu Meng thought it was the monster that attacked us earlier ramming the door, so he attacked without hesitation." Fatty Kin's wife, Lu Yashu, explained apologetically. "Are you okay?" Liu Ming asked, looking at Gu Yuan. "It's okay, boss, but this guy was really ruthless. He didn't even see who I was before he stabbed me in the neck with the dagger. If I wasn't so tough, anyone else would have been stabbed and bleeding." Gu Yuan shook his head, a trace of fear on his face. Seeing the sturdy man lying on the ground, gushing out blood, and Fatty Kin's awkward smile, Liu Ming took out a blood potion and handed it to him, saying, since it was a misunderstanding, he should have used it. The man who almost hurt Gu Yuan is quite skilled. One more hand means more strength. As the injured man slowly regained consciousness after taking the blood potion, Liu Ming led the others downstairs. Fatty Kin's family was the largest rescued of the group, with 8 or 9 surviving relatives, plus 2 bodyguards, totaling 11 people. The fat man, who had packed his luggage and was walking behind Liu Ming, had a sudden change of expression. As they neared the convoy, he made up his mind and quickly walked over to Liu Ming. He lowered his voice and said, "Boss, with so many people rescued this time, have you considered the issue of supplies and food for the future? What do you want to say?" Liu Ming said, slightly curious. "You know I'm a businessman. Besides being a shareholder in this real estate company, I also own a leasing company. Its core business is leasing large warehouses." "What do you mean?" Liu Ming vaguely guessed what the fat man was trying to say. "I have a large warehouse that I lease to a logistics company. Their main business is transporting grain and oil companies." The fat man explained the situation in one breath. "Where is it?" Liu Ming's heart raced, but his voice remained calm. In the early days of the apocalypse, when the situation was still unstable and humanity couldn't produce food, the most valuable thing besides divine grace, firearms, and fuel was food. He now had over 100 people under his command, and when you add the 900 or so people sheltering in the underground garage, the food crisis was imminent. The fat man's mention of a large warehouse of food was a surefire way to calm Liu Ming, who was already worried about the increasingly severe food shortage. It's in the southern suburbs of the city, about a 10-minute drive from here. Liu Ming closed his eyes and thought for a moment, before making up his mind. You stay with the convoy. Fatty, give me the keys and address, and I'll go to the warehouse to see if the supplies are still there. He didn't want to go to the trouble of getting a few trucks to deliver the food, only to find them empty. After all, in the apocalypse, anything could happen. Survivors getting there first or monsters destroying everything was a common occurrence during the search for supplies. It's warehouse number 9 in the warehouse area on Chengting East Road, Qianlu Development Zone. The one with the number 9 painted yellow on the wall. Although surprised by Liu Ming's decisiveness and swiftness, he replied immediately. Boss, do you know where it is? Do you want me to come with you? Fatikin added. After all, it was in the suburbs, and he was worried that Liu Ming, unfamiliar with the route, might not return for a long time, putting his and the others' safety at risk. Don't worry, Sumi, let's go. Jizarong, protect the convoy. Liu Ming chuckled, called out to his dragon pet, and leaped onto Sumi's back, streaking south. If Liu Ming were still a nerd before the apocalypse, he might not have known the warehouse's exact location. But after 10 years of wandering in the apocalypse, he knew the entire 7 districts and 6 counties of Wuling like a living map. This was Liu Ming's first time riding Sumi, after she evolved into a tailed cat. Her speed was so fast it could be described as lightning. Liu Ming felt his head barely lingering behind him before his body had already sprinted 10 meters away. Man and beast, at the very least, were speeding along the congested road at 300 kilometers per hour. The disaster struck near rush hour, leaving numerous vehicles stranded. Sumi reached the warehouse, which Fatikin had said would take more than 10 minutes, in just 2 or 3 minutes. As they reached the warehouse area and began searching for warehouse number 9, Liu Ming was surprised to see over a dozen cats from Sumi's swarm chasing them. The cats surrounded Sumi like they were guarding their leader, including the ferocious orange cat that Sumi had saved from the Sword Saint. Why are Sumi and the others here? Liu Ming asked inwardly, a look of surprise on his face. They said they were here to protect me. Sumi's voice, a touch more mature than before, echoed in his mind. By the way, I haven't asked you yet, which ability of yours summons the swarm of cats? Liu Ming asked curiously. Shadow Lord. Sumi replied as she, surrounded by her giant cat minions, carried Liu Ming to the warehouse. At this point, information about Sumi's Shadow Lord talent could be revealed through insight. Shadow Lord, the special talent of the purple shadow flame-tail cat. This gift grants the tailed cat the mystical power to control shadows and darkness, making it the feline monarch of those shadows and darkness. All feline creatures that roam in those shadows and darkness have a chance to respond to its call and submit to it. While fighting alongside the Shadow Lord, all cats gain bonuses to shadow and darkness. No wonder, Liu Ming chuckled as he leaned down and stroked the back of Sumi's furry head. With this talent alone, Sumi's current strength is probably only slightly weaker than that of the lava fiery hound. 9. A massive warehouse, several stories high and covering several acres, appeared before Liu Ming's eyes. A large, yellow, spray-painted 9 stood out prominently on the wall. Sumi, over there, Liu Ming said, pointing in the direction of the warehouse. Sumi's head tilted, and she dashed off. In the blink of an eye, Liu Ming appeared in front of warehouse number 9. Just as they reached the warehouse, Thorn Demon Liu Ming had encountered before slowly emerged from the back of a heavy-duty freight truck. Upon seeing Sumi and Liu Ming, a fierce gleam flashed in its eyes, and it lashed out with its thorny flesh whip. Several human corpses were dangling from the long thorns like candied haws. One of the corpses was flung away by the swirling thorns, landing on the ground several meters in front of Liu Ming. Kill him. Liu Ming's eyes were icy. Sumi's mouth opened slightly at this, and a dark purple flame like a tornado of fire erupted from its throat. A tornado of flames transformed into a purple pillar of fire in the air, crashing directly into the Thorn Demon with such speed that the Thorn Demon had no time to react. As the Thorn Demon was sent flying by the impact of the pillar of fire, the purple flames instantly ignited it into a blazing purple torch. By the time Sumi's men finally arrived, only a wisp of burnt ash remained on the ground, a reminder of the thorn demon's past. Leaving Sumi's back and walking to the warehouse door, Liu Ming took out his key and slowly opened a small door embedded in the main entrance. Large warehouses like this are usually difficult to open, even with their multi-meter high doors, so small doors are often provided to facilitate access for managers. The key that Fatikin had given him happened to be the key to that small iron door. He stepped through the iron gate and flipped the light switch beside it. The light suddenly came on. Surprisingly, the power was still on. The scene he saw under the light made Liu Ming's heart skip a beat. P.S. Here's a second update. This one's extra thanks to the tips from Ice Angel Archer, Jin Yu, and Shadow Kinfeng. Thank you to Gentlemen of the Gentleman Tribe, Ice Angel Archer, 99.8, and Tanamo for your tips and support. Thank you also to Deacon 99.8 for the referral red envelope. To celebrate the birth of the second Deacon of the Gentleman Tribe, Dragon Breeder, there will be 3 updates next Wednesday. Some of you are already upset about the protagonist's missing arm, but I can only say it's plot driven. The outcome is only a dozen chapters away, so bear with it. Please vote, tip, and support. Chapter 74 Warehouse Number 9, The Silent Parking Lot, Part 2. Liu Ming was certain that he had never seen so much food at once in his memories of both his past and present lives. It was like someone who had been poor for decades suddenly seeing a room full of cash ready for them to take. His heart leaped with joy. In his memories, after the establishment of safe zones in later generations, humanity's security problems were somewhat alleviated, and restoring food self-sufficiency became the top priority for the surviving humans. Even monsters needed food, so for humans, whose primary need was food, the importance of food was self-evident. Crop cultivation areas were established outside the safe zones, heavily guarded to ensure safety. Inside the safe zones, stacked planting platforms were constructed, arranged in a circular pattern of increasing size. Doomsday new energy technology was used to provide light and promote photosynthesis. The ground was hollowed out, and specialized crops that could grow naturally without intense sunlight were planted underground. Even domes were constructed above the safe zones for cultivation. The authorities had tried nearly every method for large-scale crop cultivation, but the problem of food scarcity remained elusive. The primary reason was that humanity occupied too little land. The safe zones were utterly overcrowded, leaving little arable land. This problem wasn't truly resolved until the emergence of large secret realms. Humans discovered that secret realms also provided the sunlight and rain necessary for crop growth, and in some, crops grown there grew faster and produced higher yields. It was with the widespread utilization of secret realm land that the ancient human profession of food foraging teams gradually faded from the scene. But that wasn't until at least 3 years after the apocalypse. The secret realms that emerged in the early days of the apocalypse were all incredibly small, and the available arable land was even smaller. Small-scale crop cultivation was possible, but large-scale cultivation to feed tens of thousands of people was impossible. Recalling the scarcity and importance of food in the early days of the apocalypse, Liu Ming quickly walked toward the warehouse, where he filled a mountain of grain with nylon bags. He not only needed to confirm the availability of the grain, but also to roughly calculate the total amount for future transportation. Grain, a commodity that could serve as currency in the apocalypse, was certainly safer to move to one's own territory as quickly as possible, rather than storing it in a well-known warehouse. As he approached a pile of flour, a dark figure, hunched over like a wild animal, lunged at him. "Sumi, don't burn my food." Liu Ming didn't immediately respond to the attack, but instead quickly stopped Sumi, who was about to unleash another breath of dark flame. The warehouse was filled with grain, cooking oil, salt, and other items, all packed in flammable nylon bags. If 100 or 80 bags were burned, the pain would surely be worse than the damage he would suffer from the attack. Sumi, puzzled, closed her slightly open mouth, faintly emitting purple flames. Just then, the attacking dark figure was about to collide with Liu Ming. Sumi swept with her tail whip, and the black figure's head cracked with a sound, sending it flying sideways and slamming into the pile of flour. "Don't get it dirty." Liu Ming's face darkened as he rushed forward, dragging the figure, its head shattered and strewn across the red and white flour, out the warehouse door like trash. This food was the foundation of his ability to expand his power at the dawn of the apocalypse. Not a single bag could go to waste. Having eaten cockroaches and rats to survive in his later life, he understood the significance of every grain to a survivor in the apocalypse. With strong strength, abundant food, and, secondarily, an altar. These were the true foundations of a large-scale team in the apocalypse. After clearing out the monster corpses, Liu Ming discovered 2 more human remains behind a pile of food. These were presumably the managers and security guards who had been in the warehouse when the disaster struck, but tragically, they had all perished at the hands of the monster that had just attacked him. As he neared the end of his inventory on the first floor and was about to head to the second floor, another dark figure attacked from behind him. Bang! Just like the previous monster, it too had perished under Sumi's tail whip. After taking inventory of all 4 floors of the warehouse, Liu Ming realized that the first floor alone would require at least 100 heavy trucks with a capacity of 16 tons or more to haul all the supplies. The 3 upper floors held less supplies than the first, but even transporting them would require 200 to 300 heavy trucks. 400 trucks weighing 16 tons or more, the sheer number of them gave Liu Ming a headache. But now wasn't the time to worry about how to transport the supplies. Just 1 truck full of 16 tons of food would be enough to feed him and 1,000 people for nearly a month. After taking a rough inventory of the supplies and clearing out the monsters and skeletons, Liu Ming closed the warehouse door and headed back. Over half an hour had passed since he left. That's Sumi, look. And the boss. The boss is finally back. Seeing the figure riding Sumi, like a flash of purple lightning, rushing towards him, the entire convoy erupted in unison. Boss, if you don't come back, they'll skin me alive and say I tricked you into disappearing. Fatikin sighed with relief as he watched Liu Ming rush back. Boss, are the supplies still there? He asked, his voice low. They're all there. Liu Ming nodded. Here's back to you. Keep it for now. Don't get killed, or everything in your warehouse will be mine. Liu Ming handed the key to Fatikin, teasing him. Boss, keep the key. The stuff wasn't mine to begin with. It belonged to the logistics company. No, to be more precise, it belongs to the grain and oil company, Kin said with a wry smile, pushing the key back. Fatty, things have changed. Whoever has the biggest arms and the strongest fists gets it now. If I say it's yours, it's yours. Liu Ming accepted the key without hesitation. He was already pleased with Fatikin's honest information about the supplies, and now he was even more pleased with his understanding. To him, the key didn't make much difference, whether it was in his subordinate's hands or his own. Because in his heart, every grain of rice in warehouse number 9 was his own. He had secretly sent 2 gargoyles to guard warehouse number 9. Everyone in the cars, let's go to the next rescue point. As night fell, the entire city was shrouded in darkness. 2 dump trucks and several trucks continued to drive under the stars, on a road silent only by the sounds of monsters feeding and roaring. In the entire convoy of hundreds of people, except for Liu Ming, Sumi, and his group of giant cats, everyone looked nervous in the pitch black darkness. After all, human nature is resistant to darkness. The last stop, Ruin Building. Liu Ming ordered the drivers. If Sumi hadn't suddenly summoned a large group of giant cats, who are adept at nocturnal activities, Liu Ming had no intention of going to Ruin Building on such a dangerous night, to evacuate the group of survivors led by Gong Weeksin from the underground garage shelter. But now, with hundreds of giant cats closely following the convoy, and Sumi, the tail cat described as the darling of the night has become his home turf. The engines of dump trucks and other trucks roared along the road, constantly attracting monsters along the way, but everyone in the convoy had become accustomed to it. Fatikin, still leading the way, even blasted a song from the car stereo. You and I are all mortals, born in this world. The hardship of toiling all day long, never a moment of rest. Li Zongsheng's voice, with a hint of laziness and carefreeness, slowly rose, and a strange feeling of time travel rose in Liu Ming's heart. If he remembered correctly, the song was Mortal Song, a song he had once loved from the longitudinal line. Boss, I still remember that over 20 years ago, I was driving a truck day and night to make a living. I never thought that 20 years later, I would still be struggling to survive. How unpredictable life is. Aren't you rich? Another magic seal warrior in the camp asked curiously. Millions aren't born rich. Over 20 years ago, I was just an ordinary truck driver. Later, I founded my own transportation company and slowly expanded. Fattykin chuckled as he recounted his rise to wealth. As night fell, the convoy finally arrived at its destination. Liu Ming was the first to exit the vehicle after it stopped in front of the ruin building. Stay here and wait for me, he instructed, then headed towards the underground shelter. To Liu Ming's great surprise, the entrance to the shelter, which had been blocked by car doors, was actually open, with several doors scattered to the side. On the floor of the entrance lay large still dry patches of blood and long bloody marks left by fingers rubbing against the ground, as if someone had been dragged back by a tremendous force, while desperately crawling toward the shelter. Liu Ming entered the shelter, turned on the lights, and saw nothing. The garage, which should have been bustling with people, was now completely empty. Not even a mouse could be seen, let alone a single person. P.S. Here comes the third update, this time for the Dragon Breeder's First Deacon 99.8. Good night everyone. Chapter 75, Purple Corpse Demon, Bloody Battle on Moonlit Night, Part 1. The entire underground garage was utterly silent, save for Liu Ming's gentle footsteps and the hollow whirring of wind from the open garage in trance. Liu Ming lifted a portable miner's lamp, scavenged from a shopping mall. Its intense light shone like a thick beam into the dark corners of the garage, and Liu Ming's gaze followed the light, searching for clues. After all, nearly 1,000 people could disappear simultaneously, including several Liu Ming considered experts and Gong Weixin, a sword-awakened cultivator suspected of being Jianju. If they could leave no clues, then Liu Ming felt that such a powerful monster was beyond his reach, so he retreated quickly. It had to be at least a top tier A rank monster, perhaps even an S rank. Of course, such monsters were extremely rare at this stage of the apocalypse, at the level of the Tingzang Fei, a type of relic in the Imperial Court, and the chances of encountering them were vanishingly small. Sure enough, Liu Ming spotted several more bloodstains on a van. 2 bloody palm prints were on the hood, and the prints gradually lengthened from the driver's window. It looked as if the owner of the handprint had been lifted up and suspended in midair, clinging to the front of the truck and struggling desperately, but ultimately, powerless, he was dragged away. The bloody handprint ended abruptly at the rear of the pickup truck, but Liu Ming found a severed finger, its flesh and blood etched into a skeletal shape. The pale bone fragments stood out against the bright light. After examining the mangled finger for a moment, Liu Ming concluded, the joints are thick, the skin is rough. The nails are thick, and there are scars. It can't possibly belong to Gong Weixin. As long as Gong Weixin was still alive, even if everyone else died, he would try to save her. Dropping the severed finger, he turned and looked behind him. That was the direction the owner of the bloody handprint had been dragged away. The word safe passage appeared in the light. Was this where the monster had abducted people? Shining the mining lamp on the ground, or thick, red unidentified object suddenly appeared in the illumination. It was a thick, red cylindrical object, like a giant octopus tentacle. Liu Ming approached and took a look. The cylindrical object was as thick as an adult's waist and more than half a person's length. Its entire body was blood red, resembling an immense blood vessel. Its surface was translucent, and through the beam of light one could faintly see the fluid beneath it, like blood flowing. The cylinder's skin was covered in circles of purple, forming a strange jagged pattern. This section of the cylinder didn't look complete, more like it had been severed from a larger tentacle. A scarlet fluid swirls like jelly at the cut, but not a drop escaped. Just as Liu Ming was about to crouch down for a closer look, it suddenly twitched like a live loach in boiling oil and leaped upwards. The slightly slender, pointed ends of its cylindrical tentacles shot straight at Liu Ming's face. Liu Ming dropped his miner's lamp, unsheathed his sharp blade with his left hand, and pinned the tentacle, which had sprung up, to the concrete floor. Seeing the tentacle still twitching, he gripped the hilt of his knife and twisted it vigorously, transforming the wound into a massive bloody hole. Ah! The battered tentacle shrieked piercingly, like a living creature, but then fell silent, finally pausing. Kill and grow. Ju Feng's ability instantly activated, a flash of dark red blood flashing across the blade. Like a bursting balloon, the cylinder withered at a visible speed, leaving only a layer of dark red skin on the ground. From the Ju Feng knife came a sense of lingering unsatisfaction, as if one hadn't eaten enough. By this time, Liu Ming had already vaguely suspected that he might have encountered a formidable monster he didn't want to encounter. Sumi, who had been following behind him, saw that his master was having trouble drawing his knife, so she used her tail to scoop up a fallen mining lamp to illuminate the ground. Entering the emergency passage, he saw that the elevator's 2 iron doors had been blown open by a tremendous force, lying twisted on the ground. Liu Ming's expression froze slightly, and he deployed the energy shield of his silver scale light armor, slowly approaching the elevator. He poked his head into the elevator, in trance, and saw a scene that made his face pale. The entire elevator shaft, hundreds of meters high, was completely filled with red tentacles similar to the ones that had just attacked him. The elevator had vanished. At the top floor, a dense mass of blood-red tentacles stretched out from the elevator in trance, as if their main body was there. If he still couldn't tell what monster he had encountered, then his 10 years in the apocalypse would have been wasted. Purple corpse demon. Liu Ming said slowly, his face solemn. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 thick tentacles in the elevator shaft, clearly having spotted him, shot out at him like 2 giant prehistoric pythons. In the nick of time, he kicked the ground, using the momentum to dodge the first blow. Then, without turning, Liu Ming dodged the second blow by leaping to the right. The 2 giant tentacles missed, cracking the concrete floor and sending fragments flying. After dodging the attacks, Liu Ming quickly turned and ran out of the underground garage with Sumi. A purple vine corpse demon at this level of evolution was far beyond the ability of him and Sumi alone to handle. But Liu Ming's speed was clearly outmatched by the tentacles, and his heels were about to be entangled by them in a split second. Sumi quickly dropped her mining lamp, wrapped her tail around Liu Ming's waist, lifted him up, and hurled him onto her back. She transformed into a flash of purple lightning, and instantly dashed out of the shelter's entrance. As the man and beast burst through the gate, the blood-red tentacles gave up pursuit and slowly retracted. This is definitely a purple vine corpse demon close to a class B. This is insane. Liu Ming hopped off Sumi's back, turning to gaze at the now eerie underground garage, and cursing with a gloomy expression. It's only been a few days since the apocalypse, and I've even encountered a class B creature. The people in the nearby convoy saw Liu Ming and Sumi rushing out of the garage in disarray and hurried over. Boss, what's wrong? Boss, are you okay? I encountered a formidable monster. Liu Ming said, then fell silent. His expression was so grim that no one dared to ask further questions. Liu Ming was currently debating whether or not to rescue Gong Weixin, while also weighing the potential for disastrous consequences. While he valued her potential, saving someone with mere potential while suffering heavy casualties among his own ranks was a loss. Logically, if Gong Weixin were truly Jianju, she wouldn't have perished at the hands of this purple vine corpse demon. Could it be that his presence had triggered a butterfly effect, wiping out the great god Jianju with its flapping wings? No, he felt as if he had missed something crucial. Bang. As Liu Ming pondered this, a loud bang and a series of piercing screams suddenly erupted from the rooftop of the ruin building. Several large pieces of glass plummeted from hundreds of meters in the air, shattering on the road not far from Liu Ming and his companions, sending everyone scrambling back to avoid the splattering glass. Liu Ming looked up and saw sharp sword energy rising from the top of the building in a white wave. The sight made him tremble, and he instantly recalled a half-truthful rumor from later generations. It was said that just a week after the apocalypse began, Jianju Gong Zhu, while leading a group of survivors, encountered an incredibly terrifying monster. Ultimately, she was the only one of thousands to survive. It was during that disaster that her sword energy awakened a second time, catapulting her to become the most powerful evolver of the time. Similarly, her temperament began to change dramatically, becoming increasingly cold and sharp. True to form, different fates awaited different people. Jianju's second awakening was far more powerful than that of Jeshingnan, the super powerful woman. Now it seemed that the half-truthful rumor was absolutely true, but the only difference was that, with his intervention, she was definitely not the only one who survived. And since he had appeared like a savior, couldn't he also benefit from Jianju's secondary awakening, becoming powerful enough to withstand a wave of B-level purple vine corpse demons without dying? The thought surged within him. Even if he had been entangled by the purple vine corpse demon's tentacles and dragged to its lair, he would have been in imminent danger of death. His chance of escaping on his own would have been less than 10%. In other words, gone weeks in, a woman who had successfully escaped from the corpse demon's body surpassed him in sheer strength, not counting her dragon pet. P.S. Thank you, my fellow gentlemen of the Gentleman's Tribe, for your support. To celebrate the birth of Dragon Breeder's first helmsman, Gentlemen of the Gentleman's Tribe, we'll continue with 3 updates on Thursday. Thank you also to everyone who voted for Dragon Breeder yesterday and today. A new week has begun, and a new journey. Please vote, give me tips, and support me. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.